Fire up the live stream. I always like to double check to make sure I'm actually live before I speak too much. And it looks like we will. Gotta click on this button so people can chat. All right. And it appears that I need to reattach the thingamajig, the C clamp for my microphone. So I'm gonna do that right now. Because I'm gonna need to move this camera around today, and I won't be able to do that if the C-clamp gets undone. Yeah, so I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty... yeah, I dropped my can of primer. I think it's a pretty good design. I mean, I have a green tape on here right now. In that you don't have to, attach... Oh, I see what the problem with this is. Oh my god, okay, that's interesting. But not in theory, the idea of having a C-clamp makes sense, right? I mean, you tighten it up against a wooden board or your desk and you're good to go. But this is interesting here. So observe the bend on that. That metal there has been basically placed under pretty severe force. And, I mean, you got to make it pretty tight so the stupid thing stays in position, right? But, you get a lot of leverage. You're moving this spring-loaded arm around, and that definitely exerts a lot of leverage on the thing. So I didn't know that this was bending on me, but if I'd known it was capable of bending, prone to bending, or, whatever, I probably would have, tried reinforcing it early on, maybe, put back it with some really thick wooden, look, I got some, popsicle sticks here, so maybe if, I put glue a bunch of them together, make them really rigid, and then glue them to the back of this. Maybe it would help. If I was into welding, maybe I would weld a plate of steel just directly to the back of this to add extra rigidity. But yeah, I shouldn't be surprised that some product I ordered at Amazon would have this insufficiently strong bit here. He's like, I thought it was another problem. See, I got these this foam rubber material here. And so I thought maybe this was getting undone. Maybe it was the adhesive was loosening up and sliding around. But it never occurred to me to actually check the piece to see if this part was bent. But that makes sense now. It's super annoying because I don't see how I can actually solve that without, thinking outside of the box. Because tightening it more than I've already tightened it doesn't fix the problem, right? I mean, the more I tighten it, the more it's gonna bend. And unless there's some magical point where the thing would stop bending, I can't believe it, And it's it's not the first time I bought a device with a cheap C-clamp on it where it would either bend or it would, break. So, for example, on a C-clamp, you got the metal rod that you use to get some grip in order to tighten the thing. And I'm just going to open up Rumble chat real quick. And when you move that, when you tighten it enough, I had one where the bolt actually started twisting on me. So the steel for the bolt weakened and started deforming on me, and then it snapped. So that was on a microphone stand I had. Yeah, it was on a low-end microphone stand I had a while ago. But anyway, I'm just going to pop into the Rumble chat because we want to know if the Rumble people are chatting us up. And we're going to bring up the pop-out chat on YouTube and have them side by side. And then we can always show love to the people on YouTube and Rumble if anybody shows up today. If not, that's okay. It's not like the other night when I had a stream at the worst time. Oh boy, wish nobody showed up for that one. That was awkward. Yeah, so a little bit off topic, but that's an interesting topic to touch upon. Yeah. So what happened was I had a little issue with... Oh, wait. My microphone is sitting on top of some stuff. There we go. So the other day I was, just sitting at my desk, running my telescope and kind of dozing off. And in OBS, there's a button here that says start streaming. Now, it now gives me an error message because I disabled streaming directly from OBS. I mean, it's very easy to re-enable it. You go here, you select YouTube, and you connect your account, and it's almost instantaneous when you stream through here. There's some side note things. For example, when you start a stream, you need to make sure that it says it's not for kids, or else people won't be able to chat. But generally, you could start a stream directly through here, and apparently this was one of those occasions where I started a stream, the chat was operational. I wake up at my desk at 4 a.m. and I wasn't even aware that I was streaming. Like, I had like some weird coconut water concoction in this bottle here. I go to pick up, it was nasty. I go to pick up the bottle, and I get this weird look on my face. I go, and that's what woke me up. Drinking something nasty woke me up, or like at least I realized it made me cognizant. Once I drink something nasty, then I look at my screen and I see myself on it. Then to my horror, I see the chat. So I'm like, how the hell am I streaming right now? I certainly did not intend on streaming. My guess is, I mean, I think I remember like doing some recordings in OBS. Yeah, I was recording myself in OBS, but that was different. I was going to record and edit my astronomy, just my astronomy session. And what ended up happening was at some point I clicked onto that button and it was streaming. And meanwhile, this was what was playing. So I'm sitting there on stream. I'm all like, out of it. Lights are out too, by the way. So it looks way worse. I mean, all of the lights were out. So, I mean, granted, that was my plan was to add some mystique to the astronomy stream by having the red LED on and nothing else. So I have this video playing in a loop. My red LED light is the only lighting source. The chroma key is a little bit messed up, but the way I crop it here, you can't tell. But you would see like a faded out region in the top left corner if it was, still like, no lights except for the red light. And it's just like coming out of sleep, seeing this playing in a loop on your screen, and then to your horror, seeing that the chat is open and that you were live streaming yourself. Oh boy, man. But anyway, if that's all is well, that ends well, I guess. But anyway, what we're going to do today is we're going to get on topic and take a look at something. So I picked up a Blu-ray movie, Voices of a Distant Star. In fact, this was a 2-pack. This is The Promised Place in Our Early Days and Voices of a Distant Star. Now, Voices of a Distant Star I picked up as a bootleg a while ago, and I enjoyed it tremendously. And it's only a half hour long. It's not a terribly long movie at all. It should be noted that this 2-pack originally had the label flipped over like this. So this box here emphasizes the, the movie place, the place from our promised early days, the place promised in our early days. And if we hold this up in such a way that you can't see my messy desk, and if I maybe put the little window on my left side so I can see what I'm holding. There we go. I love how this thing blocks the there we go. That's better. It's slightly better. See, this is the box for it. I only bought it because I wanted to have a good copy of Voices of a Distant Star, because I enjoyed it a lot, and the bootleg I had wasn't as good quality as I'd like it to be. It wasn't bad, but for something that's so short, I want to get the best quality of that experience. And so, anyway, this is made by the same director. What the heck was his name? Mikaku something. The guy's smart. It's a smart guy. He made it back. He made Voices of a Distant Star in 2002. And I think this other movie is considerably newer. But we can read about it real quick. Hiroki Takuya and Sayuri are 2 young boys and a girl living in Aomori, the closest province to Honshu, in Honshu to Hokkaido. These 3 young classmates become fascinated by the gigantic yet mysterious tower that they see across the Togaru Strait, promised that one day they will build and fly an aircraft to the tower to unravel its mystery. Voices of a Distant Star, the movie that the reason I bought this set. A young pilot named Mikaku volunteers to be sent on a journey through space to join the fight against the hostile alien race. A hostile alien race. Leaving behind the man she loves, her only means of contact with him is via text message in space, which takes longer to reach him the further she travels from Earth. And yeah, so the premise is Mikaku is, basically a mech pilot, more or less. And she's, basically decides to join the army or the UN forces or whatever, and she boards a ship called the Lasithia, and that's where her mech, it's a carrier. And it's like a mech carrier, I guess, or aircraft carrier in space. So at some point in the movie, she goes out, gets to Pluto, a battle begins, they get engaged by the aliens, and she's basically already in a situation where it takes like 5 months for her messages to get to the guy. Now, the thing is, it doesn't take that long for messages to travel to and from Pluto, but like it does take a pretty significant time. Like you start talking about, like, I think Mars is like a 7 or 20-minute delay, and then Pluto is maybe like a few hours. Let's see here. Light delay to Pluto. How many light minutes or light hours? So Pluto is 4.6 light hours out. So, the message itself don't take long. I don't know if the, people making the movie just made some mistakes in the formula, or if they're accounting for, how military forces, how military messages are handled. In particular, if you work in a silent service, if you work on a submarine, you could write letters, you could send messages or email to your family. In fact, you have it on a submarine, on a U.S. submarine, a nuclear sub, you have a special email address. And essentially anything to and from that address is going to be, monitored or censored. Either they'll scrub details out that don't belong in there, or they will simply, block the whole message or allow the message, So maybe that's why it takes so long for Mikaku to get her messages to her boyfriend. Maybe, that her military service or whoever's responsible for censoring messages on the ship is taking their damn sweet time, transmitting, censoring, reviewing messages, and then relaying them back to Earth. But in any case, she ends up going, they end up bugging out. So during the Pluto, in orbit of Pluto, they bug out like 1 light year out to the Oort cloud. And being out there now, we're talking, what is the light delay on the Oort cloud? Let's see here. Oort cloud, which is a pretty cool thing. 10 to 28 days, yeah, because the Oort cloud is, okay, that's about right, 10 to 28 days. So, for, would that be 28 light days, I guess? Wait. So they might have also messed up with the numbers for the Oort cloud in the movie, because I'm pretty sure they went 1 light year out. Now, could you go 1 light year out and still be in the Oort cloud? I don't know, man. I gotta double check. I might be mixing up some scenes in the movie. I'll watch it again at some point. But anyway, she goes 1 light year out. So right off the bat, like a message that was gonna take like 5 months is now gonna take like a year or two. And then they go to the Sirius star system, and now you're talking like light years. And once again, when I watch the movie again, I just watched it. I gotta watch it again to get like the numbers right. But let's see, light years to Pluto. And as it turns out, yeah, the Oort cloud could go out to be like 2 light years away. Okay, so yeah, the Oort cloud could extend 1 to 2 light years, which is about right in my opinion. It looks right. Yeah, so the Oort cloud is really cool. It is like a spherical, cloud of rocks. So you have the asteroid belt. And what's up, Whooper Trooper? It's good to see you, buddy. Thanks for dropping in. DJ! That's gangster. So anyway, the Oort cloud is sort of like the asteroid belt. You got, when you go out past Pluto, out past Jupiter. No, backwards. When you go out past Mars, but before Jupiter, you have the asteroid belt. Now, a common misconception is that the asteroid belt is densely packed with rocks. In reality, the asteroid belt is pretty sparse. I mean, there's a bunch of rocks in there, but when you're inside the asteroid belt, you're not going to be surrounded by an asteroid field. Any asteroid field in space is going to be more or less packed than they are in the movies. You know, it's not going to be like you don't have to worry about collisions when you go into an asteroid belt. It's not as big of a deal, you know. But mainly my point is the asteroid belt is more like a disk. It's more like just a flat plane. It's on the plane of the ecliptic. It's sort of like orbiting like the planets. It's like a relatively flat thing. Same with the Kuiper belt. The Kuiper belt is out past Pluto, basically. That is also more or less a flat belt. And you can actually see it in this very tiny picture right here, which, is like 400 resolution. So, we're going to see like blurriness. But basically, you got the inner solar system, right? You got the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. I don't know I guess, Jupiter is somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, Jupiter would be out past the asteroid belt, I guess. It's always confusing. Sometimes the scale of these images are so off that you might be looking at the outer planets here. But anyway, we're going to assume we're looking at inner planets followed by the asteroid belt. And then out past the asteroid belt, you would have Jupiter and all of the other planets. In fact, this little, like, orange circle resides in this tiny little area here. So we're looking at the inner planets in this space, which are zoomed in upon here with the asteroid belt. Then out past the asteroid belt, you got Jupiter. I don't know. I mean, I guess if the asteroid is big enough and the gravity is all right and you're standing upside down on the asteroid, it could. But yeah, when you talk about gangsters, are you talking about like Team Rocket? You talking about Giovanni? Isn't it funny how they put an Italian guy named Giovanni in Pokemon as like some kind of guy? That's pretty fun, you know. Yeah, you could go above. Yeah, it's interesting. So like, what number one? Once again, the asteroid belt is not really an obstacle. The cloud is not an obstacle. You can find plenty of open space between the rocks. But if you wanted to go above it, yeah, I guess you could. But orbital mechanics is so weird because you can't really plot a course in a straight line, you know? Like, and even this simplified image here, when they send the any probe out, they usually send it out like in a circular motion. And then the way that orbit works is the faster you're going, like let's say you got to go a certain speed to be in this particular orbit. The faster you go, the wider your orbit will be. Or there's a way to like, inject yourself into a different orbit or, adjust your angle of thrust. But essentially, everything's done in circles. So if I want to go above the asteroid belt, not only would it wouldn't be like a straight run where I go straight across it or straight up, forward and down, or, you basically you would do the circularization maneuver, right? Or, the elliptical maneuvers, whatever. But yeah, you could angle up while you're doing that elliptical, spiral, I guess. But then you got to have considerations like, do I have enough fuel to go where I want to go? Or if going above the asteroid belt coincides with your desired course, then yeah, you could do that, And so maybe a course that you might desire is to go above the ecliptic of the Kuiper belt, the asteroid belt, and the Kuiper belt, which you can see the asteroid belt is inner. This is the Kuiper belt that's way outside the outer planets. I don't know what this red stripe is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like one of those planets. Like they have a couple of these. They have a number of dwarf planets, and you got like, Pluto. But then there's another planet called Eris that has the same density as Pluto, or it actually has a little more density than Pluto, and it's basically about the same size, and it has a much wider orbit. So it's like if we do like versus Pluto, we could probably get like a idea here. Yeah, I'm a big Pluto fan too, and I'm not mad that it was downgraded from actual planet because, oh, that's weird. My Chrome window is black on one side. Oh, there we go. So anyway, I don't mind that it's been downgraded because like, if you make Pluto a planet, now you got to reconsider if you want to add like dozens of other planets to the lineup, Now, on the other hand, some argue that Pluto should be reinducted as a planet because I think some people still consider Pluto a planet because of its very thin atmosphere. So anyway, this is dwarf planet Eris, and they say it orbits 3 times farther from the sun than Pluto, making it difficult for astronomers to know the exact size. So they don't really know. They've been kind of estimating it back and forth, I guess. But, this is about as good as we can see right now, and I think that's one of its satellites, a moon, so to speak. And so I want a picture. I don't want them to tell me 3 times further. I want to know what the orbit is, and I don't want to see numbers. I want pictures, damn it. Oh good, they're showing the other dwarf planets. So they're showing Sedna. This is excellent. So, you know, this is like a pretty wide angle view, and you need to, you know, the scale of the solar system is so obscenely large that you get to a point where, like, the sun is no longer accurately represented. The inner planets and the sun are basically somewhere in this inner circle here. In fact, I'm pretty sure this inner circle includes the inner and outer planets. So, you know, the sun's scale is way off here. But the important thing is that we can see Pluto as what we would usually consider the outermost planet, or the outermost official planet. Yeah, we see Pluto right there. And it's got a somewhat elliptical orbit, but it's pretty close overall. Like, yeah, you got they got the term, I think, apogee and aphelion or some crap like that. And basically one of those terms means like the closest point in the orbit, and the other means the furthest point in the orbit. And, you know, it's elliptical, but it's not like obscenely elliptical. But then we get to Eris and we see it goes 3 times further out, especially on the far end of the orbit. And that's pretty severe. But then you start seeing Sedna. Sedna is like another dwarf planet. And like, I mean, look at that freaking elliptical orbit. And we got some entertaining conspiracy theories revolving around that. If elected president under the Wupsotska party, I will make Pluto a planet again. That's cool, you know. And if we can afford to set up a base on Pluto, I think that would be cool. But I mean, I understand it may not be a top priority. But you know, I mean, I'm sure if we get like an alien invasion, or if we could fake one. No, I'm kidding. We wouldn't fake one, right? We're like a good nation for the people. But if we did have an alien invasion, we might say, oh, we need to put like an outpost, maybe like a sensor array in orbit of Pluto. And so you want to have a physical base on Pluto, maybe put a radio telescope on Pluto, and put some poor humans that whoever's gonna have to stay on Pluto, man, that poor bastard's gonna have a bad time. I mean, like, you know, it's just, you know, it could be a dull place. Now, maybe if you get enough people on Pluto and you get some good recreational facilities there, it could be tolerable, right? So, I mean, it doesn't have to be hell, but I would say being assigned to Pluto, or in the comic book Forever War, which I think we're going to reference the Forever War right now because I love that movie. I mean, that book. It's a book, but I also have the Kindle book of that, or the Kindle graphic novel. And you know, I got the coolest book collection ever, and I don't read half of them. I listen to them as audiobooks. Like City on the Edge of Forever, by the way. Like, I think Nerdporeal Lifeform mentioned it a while back, and he mentioned the original script and what really happens in it. And I found out that there's a comic book version of City on the Edge of Forever that is like, you know, like based on the Harlan Ellison script, and it was damn good. It was pretty gnarly. No, you don't need to go to bed yet. No, don't go to bed. No, I'm kidding. You should go to bed. But real quick, I want to show you some pictures. So this is the Forever War comic, and you got Mr. Mandela in a suit, and then he goes inside a special tank when his ship goes into high speed mode because, you know, Collapsar jumps put a lot of gravity on you, so you need to be in a special tank. And then you got these cool battle shots, and then over here you got a book cover where he's using the ALCS, Accelerated Life Experience Computer Simulator, some crap like that. And that's his girlfriend, and she's surrounded by skeletons for some crazy reason, and they're fighting aliens with swords because in the future there's a technology that prevents bullets from working, and so they have to use swords against the aliens. And with that, I am going to let you go, man. I think you might have gone already, but it was a pleasure, Whooper Trooper. Thanks for dropping in. For anybody who is watching right now, or will be watching on the replay, I will drop a link to Whooper Trooper's channel because, you know, you should check out Whooper Trooper's channel. Oh, I clicked on a link instead of doing that. There we go. But yeah, check it out. It's a nice channel. He's got good graphics at the top. I need to get good graphics at the top at some point. He's got his own mascot. That's like really cool right there. It has no arms, but I think it's got antlers that can supplement arms, so it's fine. And he still manages to play video games, so it's not that dangerous, right? And yeah, so you know, that's what we got there. Oh, that's cool, and he can play retro music. He's got a little trumpet right there. Yeah, it's real cool. But anyway, yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna get back swinging around topic, and I hope Whoopi Trooper has a pleasant sleep. But yeah, long story short, I forgot why I mentioned Forever War. Oh yeah, because they go out to do training on, what the hell was it called? In the book, they do say they went to Karen, or Charon, depending on how you pronounce the name of Pluto's moon. But the problem is that they... Oh, I see. This is the end of the book, by the way. I'm not even in the beginning. This is the very end. But, like... Yeah, so they go out to Charon to do training, or Karen. But... Really, in the book, they kind of just use the wrong name. In the book, they refer to it as Karen. But... It's like, basically, they go out way past Pluto. So... They call whatever planet they land on for training Karen, but it's not Karen because Karen is Pluto's moon, and they are not on Pluto's moon. So essentially, in the book, they're either in the asteroid belt training or they're out past Pluto. I'm gonna assume they're out past Pluto. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're out past Pluto. So they do their training on Karen, and it's like a super dangerous like rock. Think of about like an asteroid or a large asteroid that resembles a desolate moon. And basically, there are drones sent to shoot at them as their final training exercise. They get shot at by their own drones in order to like really make sure they're ready to go to war. And in this part here, it's not even what happens. In this part, I think, yeah, they're doing practice. They're doing exercise where the girl has to disarm. Yeah, she has to disarm a bomb. So basically, as part of the practice, they have her... In fact, no, they had to plant the bomb. So the girl has to climb to the bottom of a crater after digging a hole with a laser through the ice. She had to dig a hole through the ice with a laser, plant the bomb, and then while wearing her fighting suit, her space suit / combat suit, she had to climb out of there. But after setting the detonator and the timer, her foot gets stuck to the bottom of the crater. And so now this girl has to like, shake it loose, and it's like really difficult for her to shake it loose. And basically, while she's running away, the colonel or whoever's in charge, Cortez, says, "All right, girl, you better duck," because she's trying to run, she's trying to gallop and sprint, but he's telling her, "Hey, the time is about to go up in a second, you better duck, like 5 seconds, better duck." And instead of ducking, I guess she's either trying to jump a little bit further, or she didn't hear the order to duck. And either way, the debris hits her helmet. A streak of blood comes out of her, right? You see like her getting hit by the debris. And the streak of blood gets frozen to the ground. In fact, in the book, they describe it as freezing in little like particles in the lack of air. And then leaving like this red trail on the ground that none of the soldiers disturbed. And during dinner time, nobody spoke. Cortez didn't show up to lecture anyone. And also early on in the actual book, they talk about, like, although they would enforce orders on the training mission by, at the barrel of a gun, basically, like if you don't follow orders, battlefield discipline or battlefield justice. But that the reality is if you don't follow orders, chances are something on the moon base is going to kill you first. So, there's that. Also, they got these really cool armored fighting suits. But these fighting suits have a flaw. In the book, they describe them as having like a radiator on the back of them. And let's see if we get like another angle of the fighting suit. See, this is them in the ship. They got to lay down because of the extreme velocity. So now they're on a planet. But in the book, they described it as being a radiator on the back of the suit. And this radiator is, like many space things, you wear a spacesuit, and people assume that it's harder to stay warm, but one of the harder things to do when you're in space is getting rid of excess heat. So yeah, there's a radiator on the back of this suit, and in the book they describe the mission on the training asteroid. Hey buddy, good to see you, man. I'm glad you dropped by, man. Oh man, that was awkward the other day, man. I'm gonna just go with I was sleepwalking on stream. But yeah, early in the stream I mentioned that I accidentally managed to click start streaming while doing a recording. So I was gonna record something and edit. I fall asleep at my desk. And at some point when I'm not even like mentally cognizant, I click start streaming. That shit was wild, man. But thank you for dropping by. And boy, that was awkward the other day. But I'm glad I looked up at the screen, saw the chat was running, and was able to stop it. Oof. But yeah, I told a little story in the beginning of this. But if you have any questions about that, feel free anytime. But that being said, you have a good night, Slim Nim. And people who are watching, do check out his channel, which I will put a link to that as well, because, you know, we should always say, like, I was with Orville Nation the other day. He says we grow together, and we're gonna just put that in. But word, man, you have a great night, pleasant dreams. Sleep in your bed, not at your desk. Oh yeah, Eric Boyd, I'm glad you're here too, because you were one of the other people in the chat, and I just remember seeing, oh god, man, it was awkward. Oh, I'm able to laugh about it now, but I was mortified. I was freaking mortified, bro. Oh, yeah. So there we go. I got the link right there. I didn't write the word channel. I wrote Slim Nims, but yeah, Slim Nims channel. Yeah, man. Oh my god. Yeah. Holy shit. Holy shit, man. That was awkward, man. I had to private that video. I did do one follow-up video, 2 follow-up videos. I privated one and I left the other one on unlisted. But this video early in the stream, I do like a brief half-assed explanation of what the hell that was. But man, I had some weird concoction in this water bottle that night, and I wasn't even awake or cognizant until I went to get a swig from this to get some hydration. And like I was practically half awake at that point, and then when I tasted what was in this water bottle, I cleaned it, I boiled it, I put boiling hot water in here. But yo, I friggin' like take a swig and it tasted nasty, and I'm like, ugh. And that was the part I come to my senses. I go, like, I'm tasting some nasty shit. I'm thinking, I'm like, what is that? And then I look at my screen and I'm mortified. I see the chat up and I'm like, oh god. And I see you going, oh, you okay, man? And I'm like, yeah, I would do the same question. I'd be like, oh man, what's wrong with this guy? Is he all right? But anyway, yeah, so that shit happened. But what the hell did I, beyond that, yeah, that was amusing. So anyway, yeah, I'm tempted to watch that stream, but kind of like, I think I just like bury it. I'm not gonna delete the stream only because I privated it, but I'm not deleting it because if you ever run into a copyright issue on YouTube and you delete the stream without fixing the copyright issue, they'll still hold it against you like a year later, sometime later. So it's always better to private the stream, and then if, let's say, you know, you have to do something to fix the copyright issue, you're able to fix it and demonstrate that the issue is fixed, and then you can always keep it under private. You don't have to delete the stream. So yeah, you know, but all is well that ends well. And Tuesdays, I usually, it's my 3rd day after work. So basically, like, I have 3 days, 12-hour, 13-hour shifts. And then after the, after I did that, yeah, like I was using my telescope. I'm here at my desk. I dozed off at some point. Yeah, very bizarre. So one of the solutions, well, preventative measures was, at first I was going to put a password on OBS, but I realized really all it came down to was disabling this button. So basically now it doesn't stream when I hit that button, but I don't always use it. Like right now I'm using Restream, but the way you can do streaming is you can use these settings here to stream directly to YouTube, which can sometimes be nice and convenient and very quick. But if you want to do a multi-person stream, you got to use something like, you know, StreamYard or Restream. So instead I'm using the virtual camera, and when I toggle this off, you're going to see my screen turn blank. And when I toggle it back on, you're going to see my screen come back to life. So that is basically how that works. Yeah, I mean, like, now it's not a hard and fast rule about the, whoops. And this is the video that was playing. So yeah, I hit a button on my Stream Deck. This is the button that gives me my turtle. So now imagine this. The lights in my room are off. And so usually when you have the chroma key, the green screen up, you're going to see like some messed up colors on the corner here. And then meanwhile, I have a red LED bulb on instead of a normal light bulb to keep my night vision good and whatnot. And so now I have this up on the screen. The lighting is different. The edge of my glasses looked like it had an extra dark red spot there between the red lighting and, you know, there's like a little bit of a red mark here, but it's not severe. But it looks super red over here considering my glasses are red. And it just looked off, man. Everything looked off. The lighting looked off. I looked off. I was a little off. And I don't know, it was just bizarre seeing myself all like, you know, and then having this turtle playing in a loop, like it looks all deranged now. This I use, the turtle video I use as a placeholder. Like if I'm on someone else's stream and I gotta walk away from my desk, or sometimes I'll use it as a placeholder, just if I want to show someone what my turtle looks like very briefly, and it's kind of funny seeing her climb like that. But yeah, that would happen. So yeah, I mean, like, it's not a hard and fast rule about YouTube doing that, but it's something that a friend encountered, so I figured it's worth making note of. There was nothing that was copywritten in that stream, so I'm not worried about it per se, but, you know, just good to cover your bases. I may delete it eventually, but I'm not going to delete it right away. I'll give it time to see what, you know, transpires and if anything important was there to review. So yeah, anyway, it looks like I got some comments here. A Filipino American invented GPS. From what I know, he is working in California Tech City. Now we have super generators that does not use fuel, battery, liquid natural gas, oil, coal, etc. The thing is, we don't know when the generator will be introduced to the world. The generator is a threat to big time businessmen, but they will wipe out and go bankrupt. What the hell am I reading? I don't know what this is. Like, this is a response to a comment about a NBC video that was moaning about the GPS, Chinese Baidu GPS constellation, basically the satellites that they use as an alternative to GPS. And part of the reason why they created their own, satellite system, GPS satellite equivalent, is because they were being, prevented from using it. Even India was prevented from using the GPS during one of their wars in 1999. So India decided to launch their own regional GPS that goes, basically around India, or mostly serves the areas in the India region. And so that they could never be politically blacklisted from using GPS when they needed to use it. Right now, a lot of our devices will use GPS and GLONASS. GLONASS is the Russian system. As I've been told, GLONASS has a stronger signal than GPS. I don't know if that's actually true, but it sounds cool. And it's got other features, but for the most part, they basically do the same thing. GLONASS existed at Russia. It can be, independent of GPS, because obviously waging war and, being dependent on American, navigation can be a little tricky. And you had a lot of these like intelligence experts or military contractors here. So one of the things that everyone in the comments was bitching about was that you always see, whenever they talk about GPS in China, you see Chinese soldiers. But when you see GPS in America in this video, you see American civilians all innocently using GPS, like on their car or some crap like that. And I don't really care, but yes, I get it. You got these intelligence blowhards, or these, people who obviously work for different branches of the Air Force or administrative types, and, they have their own interest. I get that, but yeah, I don't care. So what? Portray the Chinese as using GPS on their military people, while the Americans are innocent. What I understand is that, people can read between the lines, at least I think they can. And anyway, the only issue with Baidu would be, like, they complain that Baidu has a two-way messaging system, which could be used for emergencies, sort of like a feature that Apple provides on some of their devices now, where if you're in the middle of nowhere, you can send like an emergency text message, a short message. So Baidu will enable people to do something like that on some of their hardware. So whereas GPS is purely a one-way signal, like with GPS, you're receiving a signal from multiple satellites, and then your phone is doing mathematics to figure out your position. And they do it because every GPS satellite has a synchronized clock on it. So all they really have to do is transmit a beam of information saying, what time does my clock say? And because we already know that satellite is moving at a certain speed, we know how much relativity has in terms of the effect on the flow of time dilation. And then also we know the distance of the satellite, because we know its orbital parameters. We know where it's supposed to be at any given time. So if the satellite knows where it is, or we know where the satellite is, then knowing those pieces of information in addition to the time on the clock on the satellite, it's possible to calculate the location. So it's a form of triangulation, but they're using time data. Now Baidu, they added a two-way transmitting feature, and the two-way transmitting is not as necessary for the locating feature. But of course, people in this video would, in this NBC video, were, ranting about how it could be misused. It could be used to, divulge private info. So it's like, well, what do I say? Don't use it. Now, I believe I discovered this today, but the phones don't always let you pick whether you use GPS, GLONASS, Baidu, or the whatever other system. Japan has their own too, but obviously that one I think is used over Japan. But my watch does. My wristwatch, I was able to manually enable GLONASS and GPS to work together, because I said, well, why would I want to be limited to one positioning system? Might as well have two of them, right? So we do that, But anyway, yeah, I'm not really concerned about Baidu. Let them have their constellation. Now, if they integrate it in devices and then they add features that are maybe risky that we don't need, and I can't disable that feature, that would be really annoying, you know? And somewhere in this video, they show you a GPS satellite being prepped for launch, and the thing was humongous. And one of the other things they're doing is they're going to add to the GPS generation of 3 or whatever it is, they're going to add a two-way transmission. So by virtue of China adding extra features to their GPS equivalent, we're basically adding the same features to ours anyway. So it's like, you know, it's kind of just like, you know, it's like I'm not really up against the NBC bias in this case. I'm just more about like, you know, it sounds like we're talking about the same stuff, except that it's not okay on one side, it's okay on the other side. Instead, I'd be more fine with, instead of just bitching about China, let's talk about, okay, if we have a concern about Chinese Baidu system, let's talk about how we want to counter that threat. If it's an actual threat or concern, great, talk about how you want to deal with that. But I think one of the things they talked about was jamming capabilities, and some people in the comments expressed that, well, they're only worried about jamming capabilities from China because the US are already engaged in that. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I'm pretty sure everyone practices how to jam, you know, potential adversarial satellites. Just a matter of like, don't abuse that ability and cause a bunch of dead satellites to be crashing into each other. But yeah, you know, it's a pretty big satellite. You got the guy standing here. You got the payload section of the rocket up here. And you got, you know, they put it, a payload fairing, they call it. Yeah, a little cover. And then whereas you got the Starlink satellites, and they're like almost like CubeSats or micro satellites. And I mean, they're comparable to CubeSats, a little bigger, I think. But essentially, you have a stack of smaller satellites in a Starlink launch that get launched, you know, in a certain order. And those actually do, Starlink does rely on GPS for its locating abilities, although it can relay your location data, it still relies on GPS to assist with that. So anyway, where was I? I went off topic here. Oh yeah, I was reading the comments. So yeah, I made a comment over here. And this person said, I'm from Southeast Asia. We always face the problem from American... Okay, let me reread that. I'm from Southeast Asia. We always face problem from American to temporary... Okay, I'm going to just translate this into readable English. I'm from Southeast Asia, and we always face a problem from the Americans who temporarily switch off their GPS and satellites, thereby causing our ship to lose direction in the sea frequently. Luckily, China helps us to solve the problem. GPS is not serving the world, it serves America only. Good. On the other hand, China is the only country to show a helping hand. That's kind of funny, but you know what? Like, maybe I'd feel that way too if I was in Southeast Asia. Beyond that, I'm kind of like, I remember what my comment was. My comment was, can I see my comment? Oh, there we go. Okay, good. So my comment in response to this, so basically this guy's saying that by America turning off the GPS satellite signal to their part of the world in Southeast Asia, their ship gets lost frequently. And it's like, well, my question is, does nobody on your ship know how to use or check the stars or use a sextant for navigation? So yeah, I'm currently reading a couple of books about submarines during World War II. And one of the things that the first officer or somebody on the, you know, the command crew will do is, at a given time, like 4 a.m., they'll go out to the deck or out to the bridge, and they will get the stars. They will look at the sky. They'll use a sextant, which has what looks like a little miniature telescope on it and some prism, and you're able to line up the horizon, and you're able to like get the angle of whatever stars you're looking at. So you need to know, like, okay, maybe like a commonly bright star. You aim at that star, you figure out the degree angle of that star, and basically you're able to figure out your location based on the time. So as long as you know what time it is, and you have the angle of the stars as measured using a sextant, you can actually figure out where you are on the Earth without GPS. At least you could do it sufficiently to draw a plot on a map. You could plot your location on a map. And granted, like, yeah, I understand that maybe modern shipping, they don't go out of their way to teach everybody how to do that form of navigation. Perhaps people have gotten lazy and rusty and don't even bother practicing that ability anymore. But if I was on a ship and there was a risk that I would get, you know, lost if I didn't have my GPS, I would make damn well sure I know how to figure out my location without GPS. Okay, we've been doing this. Humanity has been measuring locations on the high seas since forever. I mean, like the British Navy. What's his name? Lockbar Ragnar? The guy from Vikings. That guy figured out that he could use a quartz stone or a quartz crystal, and basically even on a cloudy day he'd be able to look at the polarized light through the rock and figure out where the sun is in the sky, and then even on a cloudy day he'd be able to somewhat navigate using the sun. And I don't know if they had clocks back then, so I don't know. I guess they would use the sun to figure out what time it was. Oh yeah, so they used a sundial, I think. I'm sure it was less accurate, but that's essentially what they would do, is they'd use a sundial. Because, you know, sailing west, if your goal is to sail west, which in the early season of Vikings, that was their big goal, was to sail west to England, which they were in denial of, but he wanted to find new places to pillage in the west. And yeah, so, you know, he worked it out, got some solutions, and made his way that way, figured it out, you know. But I'm surprised that this guy on a Southeast Asian ship, or his crew, is not able to figure this crap out. So either he's disingenuous and lying, or he's just on a ship where they don't know how to freaking navigate, when maybe they should be better at navigating, considering that losing GPS is a real threat, you know? And what the hell is this? I think he's got a kid killing a lizard here. Which, look, maybe if I lived in China and there were lizards walking around my house, I'd be stomping on lizards too. I don't know, but where was I? Oh, that's kind of cool. This guy's channel is pretty cool here. I don't know why I opened it, but yeah. Oh, machine that makes metal parts. Okay, good. I'll check it out later. But yeah, Smarter Every Day is a pretty cool channel. Why did I click on this guy? Filipino Czech family. Oh, that's cute. Marshall Butters. He looks like John McAfee. No, I'm kidding, but... Okay, so let's see what other comments we got here. DJ Ronnie G. Moron. Wow. That guy's got to be from another country. No offense, nothing wrong with being from another country. But by other country, I mean one in Asia. So, great. We got a Wu Mao here. We got a, maybe, I don't know if he's a Wu Mao, but... joined 2013, so it's not a super new account. But he's either an actual soldier or a geek soldier. I'm going to guess he's part of the 50 Cent Army. I don't really know that. I'm making that up. But, you know, nothing really here. Just some channels he subscribes to, he or she. Some Filipino mom in South Korea. Japan stuff. Maybe this person isn't Chinese. I don't know. Do Chinese people watch Japanese anime? Yeah, that's actually a thing. So, like, there's a term. I don't even know if you're allowed to write it in the comments without it getting deleted anymore. But, there's a guy, YouTube channel called China Uncensored, and he mentions about this so-called 50 Cent Army, aka Wu Mao, and they probably pay him more than 50 cents now, but the idea is that there's like people who post pro-China responses on social media, or they'll post some, like, you know, something that counters anything anti-China, and then they will get paid for it by the government of China or something like that. So it's like it's a job, you know, and so once in a while you'll see someone who's like super pro-China, like not necessarily, maybe they're not even wrong, but like they will jump into a comment section, and sometimes you'll see a bunch of them in one place. So I guess if there's like a known mainstream media hit piece against China, they're more likely to show in force, you know, and they'll have a lot to say, or they'll have like things that are very particular to say. And I don't know if we could find like examples of Wu Mao comments. But yeah, they even have here, they call it the 50 Cent Party here, which doesn't sound half as cool as 50 Cent Army. I'm going to keep calling it 50 Cent Army because that's the name I know, and that's the name I like. 50 Cent Party, that's no fun. 50 Cent Army is cool. And plus, we like 50 Cent, right? You know, the rapper. I got to play that game. It wasn't that good, but it wasn't terrible. I want to play Bulletproof for the Xbox. That was like literally the Xbox game with 50 Cent. The guy's mad jacked, got tattoos, and I don't know, you're playing a video game as 50 Cent, which I just think is kind of hilarious for some reason. Let's see here. The colloquial term Wu Mao, from the Chinese pronunciation of the term, has been used as an insult by some English speakers against the people with perceived pro-CCP or pro-Chinese views, and has been cited in discussion of xenophobia. An analyst at the Wilson Center has noted that ethnic Chinese are most likely to be called Wu Mao, and other groups of people in the English-speaking world attributed some of this to racism. Fuck you. Australian term has been used as an insult amidst the rise of anti-Asian, anti-Chinese sentiments and the ongoing debate over increasing Chinese influence in the country. So, they put Chinese influence in quotations, but yeah, there's some Chinese influence in Australia, and I'm not saying it's all bad. In Australia, they're pretty close to China, and so a lot of Chinese kids go to university in Australia, and there's nothing wrong with that alone, I mean, go get educated in a nice Western country, power to them, right? But at the same time, I remember there was like somebody who was protesting, or they put some posters up that were like not particularly in favor of something China was doing, and some random Chinese student comes up to this like bulletin board and just ripping down the posters because he's offended by it or some crap. And basically the university security and the students had to explain to this guy or kid that, no, buddy, this is we have free speech here, and you can't just take down someone's messages. You want to put up your counter narrative, you could do that, but you can't just rip down people's posters, but whatever. The guy was obviously butthurt on behalf of his own nation and preferred to rip down the posters and shit, so I mean, there's something going on, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Yeah, and look, I mean, maybe there's like people stateside in the US who do the same thing, but I mean, usually, like, for example, I remember a friend of mine, he was trying to get me to join the army after he joined, because he saw that there was a lot of IT jobs in the army, and he's saying, look, man, you could be sitting behind a computer console protecting us from the Chinese hackers, or you could be hacking China, or whatever the heck it was, security stuff. And it sounded kind of cool and stuff, but I didn't want to go to the army. And what was the but so yeah, I mean, I'm sure we both have on our side and their side, we have our own cyber or whatever shit going on. But yeah, it's a little microcosm of that, of the human element when it comes to Chinese Sino-American relations. And so now, what else do we have here? We got oh yeah, this guy called me a moron. Okay, so I respond to the guy about the boat, and I ask him, does he not use a sextant? Do you not use other navigation techniques? And then this guy's, all he's got to say is moron. So in honor of Pee Wee Herman, in honor of the late, what's his name? Joe Rubens? What the hell is his name? Paul Rubens? I know you are, but what am I? I love saying that. I gotta get a copy of that movie, Pee Wee Herman, again. I mean, I have it on tape, but, I gotta get, like, a modern copy of Pee Wee Herman. So, yeah, in honor of the late Paul Rubens, I know you are, but what am I? There we go. I love saying that. But this guy, I will like his comment because it doesn't oppose most of what I'm saying. Although, actually, I don't know if I like it. He's like, now, you know what? I can't like it because he's talking about some magical generator that generates electricity without any conventional fuel. Then he mentions that we don't know when this generator will come out. And all of this crap is just like, what are you talking about, buddy? So, yeah. It sounds nice, but, I'm not down for making shit up. I subscribed to this guy in Iran just out of curiosity because he had a picture of a dam. And so now he's got some nighttime ceremony called the Sadeh ceremony in Iran. And, I feel like it's nice to explore culture in, other countries and shit, So it's like whatever, political rhetoric we got going on. I'm curious about Iran. I don't know the full truth about it. I've heard some pretty damning things about, like, the way they're treating women or students lately or some crap like that. But, then you see people in everyday life and it looks like, a somewhat normal place. I mean, yeah, like these guys are sitting on dirt over here. That's not normal by my standards, but you got people with different walks of life. They look like they're making something out of wool or some crap like that. That's kind of cool. They drink tea. We both drink tea, right? We drink tea. They drink tea. That's kind of, something we have in common. They go to the beach, so they're not aliens, they go to the beach. They use the parrot sailboat and shit, So we got stuff in common, I guess. Apparently they got penguins in an ice pond in Iran. So I don't know if this is actually a zoo or if this is a video from Antarctica, but yeah, Iran has like ski resorts, not just a desert, they got ski resorts and shit up there. You got mountains in Iran. Apparently they got birds too. I didn't know they had birds in Iran. I'm kidding, of course they had birds. I ran migratory birds to warm areas. So I mean, I don't think he means the birds are warming the area. I think it means that these birds are migrating to warm areas. So that's interesting. You have gas water that comes out of the heart of the rock in Babusut region in Siman province. So wait, can he light this water on fire? I hope he lights the water on fire. Or does he mean that like the gas pressure is pushing the water out? And I gotta resize this box here. Oh no, not like that. I gotta resize it like this. There we go. So that we can read the whole message. I should like that video because I liked learning from it. Oh, cool. Is that the astronaut that got stuck? Oh, never mind. It's gone. Oh, my God. Don't even get me started on the frickin' UFO shit. Oh, this is cool. Nuclear Vault. So it looks like one of those YouTube channels that has like those really old Defense Department videos. These are always a real treat. If you like into boring shit like that, these are great to watch. And there's another one. I think it's called Periscope Films. And then this is the Redstone missile and the computer that operated it, apparently. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to put that in my playlist, too. And 1958. Yeah, see, I just, sometimes you just come across a bunch of shit that you want to watch at some point, and you just start, like, adding them to a playlist, like, really crazy. Okay, last one. Last video I'm going to add to the playlist. Alright, where was I now? Let's hit the back button a few times. And we're going to close that. I'm looking for... Yeah, so this UFO shit, you know, I'm not going to play this guy's video in its entirety, but, like, I'm not sold on it. You know, it's like, number one, like, you know, telling me that, oh, but these guys gave testimony under oath in Congress, and that you can get in trouble for perjury or charged with perjury if you're lying. And yeah, that's true, but I don't know if I've ever heard anybody really getting perjured or being charged with perjury for lying to Congress. But furthermore, you can't really accuse the guys the whistleblower, the so-called whistleblower, David Grush, or the U.S. Navy pilot, forgot his name, but it was a U.S. Navy pilot, one of the guys who saw a Tic Tac UFO from above an aircraft carrier. You know, like, yes, the guy seemed like a straight shooter. He seems like he's not lying, but I don't consider him an expert on what he saw, because nobody knows what he saw. He doesn't know what he saw. So, you know, I get that, like, if it's a flying object and it's flying the way you'd expect a flying object to fly, then yes, it violated the laws of physics. But then to try to tell me that, and it's not the pilot, but now other people who take that observation from the pilot and try to claim that, well, since it's breaking the laws of physics, it must be aliens. And if it's aliens who can break the laws of physics like this, they must have interstellar capability. It's like you jump into too many conclusions when you say that. So I'm not crazy about that aspect of the whole UFO thing lately. It seems like a pretty significant distraction on the whole. I'm sure, like, once again, the pilot is genuine, but I don't consider him an expert on, you know, what he saw, because he doesn't know what he saw, you know. But what else did we have? We had, did they lying under oath? Well, the pilot didn't lie under oath. The pilot told what he saw and speculated, you know, but he couldn't really lie. I mean, what he saw on his plane was well documented on the camera, at least as well documented as you can get on a, like, 20-year-old camera. As for David Grush, well, basically the motherfucker's playing third-man telephone. It's like, he's saying he spoke to an intelligence analyst, who he's not going to name, and he's got pictures that he's not going to show us, or some shit like that, but that this is what the intelligence analyst told me. And it's like, it sounds cool, and if that's a reputable person you got that information from, great, but you didn't see it yourself. You got it from the analyst. So how do you know the analyst isn't lying? How do I know that you're not lying about the analyst? But in any case, instead of being accused of lying, he could just say, oh, I was given disinformation. I was disinformed. I'm sorry. You know, like, so I'm just, yeah, I'm not swooned by this current round. What I see is that we've had guys since the 40s saying they've seen some shit. And maybe some of them were genuine and some of them were lying and some of them were misinformed. We have reputable pilots during World War II, the 40s, when they saw what they call Foo Fighters, I think, over Europe. And so things have been seen, but it still stands to be determined what they were. And unfortunately, most of the time for the past 50 years, the mainstream media has basically ignored or slandered or whatever, you know, kind of like, you know, dismissed a lot of this stuff. And so what I find highly suspicious is that the mainstream media and, you know, just in general, the corporate media now suddenly cares about this stuff, talks about it like it's serious. You know, it's not like treated like some fringe thing. I'm not saying that we should treat every UFO thing like it's fringe, but it's funny how it goes from tabloid and fringe to like something they're taking seriously, and then people are jumping to conclusions, and most people who accept those conclusions, they just want to believe, right? You know, I mean, sure, I want to believe too. And so they're willing to eat it up and accept anything that supports their predisposition. And now, one argument people would say is that the universe is too damn big for there not to be other species. I agree, and I'm not doubting that there's not other life out there. I'm just doubting that we've seen it or encountered it at this point. And if we have encountered it, the evidence is not sufficient at this stage. So that's where I'm at right now. But let's see, what you say, Eric Boyd? We got exactly this whistleblower in particular makes me question his claims. He doesn't give specific info, just hints and allegations. Exactly, like it's infuriating that people are jumping all over themselves over this crap. Like, I don't know if people just lost the ability to critically think, or I don't know, like they're so depressed right now they want to believe in something more. But you gotta have to give me something more. And what, you know, if like these people really want to believe, then they should demand that this guy and those involved give us more. Now, of course, people will bitch. They'll say that, oh, it's really sad that people are giving this guy, you know, the whistleblower, a hard time. You know, he's trying to expose the truth in all of this, and people are giving him a hard time, treating him like he's a bad guy. I'm like, well, look, he should have maybe thought about giving more information. If he's being honest, he should have given more information. People are saying he's such a good guy, he's risking his life, he's risking his career. Well, apparently he's not risking it enough, because there's information he's willing to withhold, there's details he's willing to withhold because of concern for his life and career. So, and then again, I don't see selfless sacrifice. I see a half-assed attempt at giving the appearance of a selfless sacrifice, but clearly it's not enough. Now, maybe I'll be proven wrong in a few weeks or a few months, but I have a feeling a couple years down the road, I probably still won't be wrong. But we'll see. I mean, I would love to be wrong about some of this, you know, to an extent. So we'll play it by ear. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not going to skip through this video here because, you know, like, actually, this is worth touching upon. U.S. has been flying Black Triangle UFO since Desert Storm, question mark, exclamation point. So, you know, we know that the F-117, you know, F-117 is normally F is a designation for a fighter jet, but the F-117 Nighthawk in this case is more of a bomber because it can't really be used as a fighter. It doesn't have any cannons or guns on it, but it has a bomb bay on it, so it's able to deploy, you know, bombs over Iraq while being stealth. Now, of course, essentially what they did was in the 70s they used the computer model to simulate how radar would hit shapes, and they figured out that there was this weird diamond shape, or a diamond shape that reflected the radar away from, you know, the plane without sending the radar back to the radar dish that's trying to detect the plane. And so they were able to then derive this shape from that diamond shape. So they had to take that of the diamond shape and figure out how to like shape it like a plane. It was almost hopeless. The diamond, they called it a hopeless diamond because, you know, like, how do you get a shape of a diamond to be a wing? But they figured it out. They figured out we could use these faceted triangular surfaces of various angles, and the wing will behave like a wing because the air pressure will still be the way it should. You have these little grills up here to help reflect radar in the direction they want so that the engine blades don't cause a signature, because the propeller blades or the engine blades would definitely cause a signature. You'll notice on the edge of the window here, we have these little sawtooth triangles here. So wherever the window opens, or wherever there's an edge between the glass and the window, or over here where the window opens, you can see these little triangles. And those are all there to help with the, you know, deflection of radar in the direction they don't want. Now, a lot of these stealth planes, I think they actually have to plot a course. So they have to know where the radars are going to be in the enemy country. And then they have to plot a course so that the plane is always facing a certain direction when it's in range of a radar dish. So it's not as simple as just magically being cloaked, but it worked. It obviously worked in Desert Storm. And then this type of plane doesn't really make noise until it's in front of you. So when it's coming by, you don't hear it. And then when you're behind it, you'll hear the noise. It's got like a weird flat shape to the back where the exhaust comes out. And some people rumor that they have this allegedly electrostatic feature where the exhaust coming out of the plane is electrically charged. It's ionized or something. And the reason that they've given in recent time officially is that this ionization is used in order to hide the thermal, to hide the heat, to hide the thermal signature from heat-seeking missiles and stuff like that, or from anything that can, detect heat. But other people believe that this electrostatic effect is actually being used to increase the propulsion, to give, like, basically more kick or more lift. And there could be some truth that if you electrically charge or ionize a wing, that you can make the aircraft lighter and increase the amount of lift you get for a given amount of surface area. Or maybe they're getting more push for a given amount of thrust. But that stands to be really properly demonstrated at this time by anybody independently. So I'm not sold on that, but it does sound cool. Yeah, man, that shit's pretty cool, right? And whereas the B-2 stealth bomber is a bit different, so we got a B-2, let's see, we got a B-2, and actually, like, they have newer versions of the B-2, so, I think it's called a B-22 or some crazy shit like that, but, we got, like, a Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit, very spiritual, and it just looks so cool, and, basically, this one here, by then they had the technology or the computational capacity to calculate curves. And so, essentially, they have a very thin plane, just a flying wing. And between being really thin and having the right curves in the right places and a gold-plated window, because the gold plating is, what allows the window to behave like a metal surface, and then they could, have the shape the way they want. Amongst other factors, once again, it's relatively stealth. It probably has stealth on different angles as well as just the front, and maybe this is a shape where they did that ionization thing to make it lighter or get more kick, but once again, it stands to be demonstrated. At the very least, it probably does reduce the heat signature. And of course, both planes being weirdly designed are very difficult to fly. Like, if you were manually controlling these planes with pulleys and cables, you wouldn't be able to properly control it. You'd have to constantly, like, pull the stick left, right, in order to counter the forces, because if you overcompensate, the thing flips over. And so they have a computer system called fly-by-wire, and essentially you tell it you want to fly, straight, it'll fly straight. You tell it you want to turn right, you turn the stick right, and the plane will turn right. But the computer will translate that command to turn right. And if, let's say, while it's turning right, by moving the flap in a normal position, and the plane starts doing something unexpected or that, you would not expect, then you would basically, the computer would intercede and reverse the flap position. So sometimes if you look at the back of these planes, you'll see the flaps moving rapidly, like almost like a computer is constantly moving it. And I would say it's akin to flying the Dodo in Grand Theft Auto 3. So if you've ever flown the Dodo in Grand Theft Auto 3, the best way to fly the Dodo is like this. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like literally, you're constantly doing something like this. Because if you try to pull up, to take off on a Dodo, you have to push forward a little bit to keep yourself on the ground and get more airspeed. Then once you have airspeed, you could pull up, but generally you're better off just letting go of the stick. The plane will start floating up, and a lot of times you'll just push forward a little bit, keep it from pulling up too quickly. Because if the plane pulls up too quickly, it slows down and falls out of the sky. And as you get more airspeed and you get higher altitude, you can start to, like, bring yourself down, get more speed, and you can pull up more. But just making a left turn makes the Dodo flip over completely. So when you go to make a left turn, you'll hit left a little bit, then you'll pull right, left, right. And basically, you can basically, like, alternate like this so that the plane will make a leftward trend. But to prevent it from flipping over more, you're going to constantly pull right a little bit to keep that stability. Now, that's something that a fly-by-wire system would do automatically on a real airplane. So, that's why I mention it. But yeah, Punkwater, it's good to see you, man. And I don't know if you want to do that StreamYard test now. I don't know if it's too late. You got work in 7 hours, so probably not a good time to do it. But, let me know. I will book time. I am off from work until Saturday. I go back to work on Sunday. But if there's time, for you, let me know. And, I'd be happy to, like, what I want to do is I want to, like, get a StreamYard session where it's just you and me, and we're connected, we're, like, on the screen. And at different periods, you might be able to do some screen sharing. And basically what I would want to do is excuse me, I belched. What I would want to do is, like, for example, if I do Control-Shift-Escape, the task manager comes up. And then I'm gonna hide the chat real quick. Yeah, I understand. Look, man, plumbing, that might even be literally, if your plumbing is related to a toilet, man, you might be literally busy with crap, which is kind of funny. But I mean, it's pain in the ass too, plumbing. But you saw my message about my dad's plumbing problems, and some of them he was able to succeed with. But like, I remember years ago, it was really crazy. Like he had to like open up the trap in the basement, and then like there was an opening on the pipe that he could open, and he was able to like fish it back and forth on both sides of the pipe. But there was just a bunch of this black sludge in the pipe, and then a more recent time, it was a simpler thing, but essentially he used the snake and it wasn't working to get the clog out. Then he rented a machine from like Home Depot for like $60 or some shit, and it's like basically a motorized snake, and it's got like this. It's like the machine is like 100 pounds. You plop it down in front of the sink. You run a snake. You got like a little crank, and then there's a motorized thing that spins it. And it's got like little like metal bits on the end that like act like drill bits basically, and so he calls this plumber. The guy was a plumber from Brooklyn, and guy was a real straight shooter. And he basically goes, you know, do you still have the machine with you? Because he was literally going to walk my dad through it over the phone instead of just looking to make money right on the spot. The guy did a good job, showed up, charged a fair price. And in his case, so basically what he suggested my dad was if he still had the machine, to run the snaking machine, but to also have water running behind it. So while you're mechanically trying to loosen up the sludge is going to stay there unless there's some water kind of pushing it forward. So you loosen up the sludge with the mechanical effort, and then the water kind of pushes it along. So fast forward, the plumber comes over, and instead of bringing the machine in, the plumber just uses a regular snake. And I forget, he probably had the water on, but he basically just did it like in 10 minutes, like pulled the snake in, had some water running, it loosened up, and then good to go. And yeah, the guy did a great job, you know, so God bless that guy, you know. But so I might be able to share some random tidbits of information, but I am not a plumbing expert. I'm not here to give unsolicited advice, just to, you know, bring it up in case any of that coincides with what you were working with. So anyway, yeah, Task Manager, something I can actually talk about with a somewhat moderate expert opinion on. So basically, when you open up Task Manager by pressing Control-Shift-Escape, it'll look something like that. And these are all of the applications that are opened in my foreground right now. But long story short, every application that's running in the foreground will also be under the Processes tab. Processes will also include the icons in the bottom right corner that we can't see right now, but you know, the icons next to the clock. And so if I had a program that was like, I couldn't close in the bottom right corner, you can sometimes just straight up kill it. Like, why is Microsoft Edge running? Well, I'm going to kill it right now. Boom, and I killed Microsoft Edge. But long story short, you must go to bed, and I understand that. So crash, snooze, and you know, keep that ice on ice if you can, because I don't want Qbert to melt. But yeah, man, whatever. I'll keep my message open. I gotta see if my I don't know if I get like a noise when people message me on Discord, but I gotta check my settings, because otherwise I check Discord periodically. But anyway, man, you have a good night. Godspeed, and may the Schwartz be with you, and live long and prosper, and you know, pleasant dreams and all that. But yeah, and for you, Eric Boyd, yeah, the Task Manager, you got the startup items here. We used to open this up through what was it, Microsoft Config? Oh, I can't remember the name of it now. Was it MS Config? Yes, it was MS Config. Oh, cool. Okay, cool. I'll take a look at that. And I will put a link in the chat. Yeah, and if you're not subscribed, Eric Boyd, I do recommend subscribing to Punk Waddle's channel and to see what's happening at the Ice House. So yeah, you know, we got, this is how we used to do the startup in Windows 98, but they moved it to Task Manager, I think, after XP. So we don't really use this that much anymore. But you can edit the boot menu over here. Now, I don't like to disable startup from the Task Manager. Usually what I'll do is, if I can get like my full screen view, I gotta fix my Stream Deck buttons, so I don't have to manually do this every time. So we got all these icons on the bottom right corner. So apparently I opened up 2 instances of a video encoder. And apparently one of them is paused and the other one is doing nothing. So I'm going to close this one. And in fact, I actually have to use this during this very stream. I have to use the video encoder because I need to fix something related to the editing I was actually doing earlier. So we're going to go over that in 2 seconds. But yeah, so, you know, like normally, like if I have like a Steam starts up, Steam is the game app store, which right now apparently has, there we go, the menu for Steam. Now, I don't mind it starting up because then when I want to open up a game, my games will update automatically. Also, by having Steam running in the background, I can use remote play. I can play games on my PC from my TV, basically, or from my handheld. So it gives me flexibility. But I can right-click on Steam and click Exit Steam. And if I do that, that should reduce the amount of memory I'm using. You see how the memory graph went down a tiny bit? Now, I got 17 gigs in use out of 64 gigs right now. So I'm using a lot. Somewhat inefficient. And same thing, if I go here, you know, I can close this icon if I want. This is an icon that controls my monitor. It probably doesn't use an enormous amount of memory, so I don't close it. But if I wanted to free up every bit of memory, I could exit that. I just did it. I have an application for the Elgato Camera Hub. If I want to exit that, I can do it too, which, I mean, basically all this does is lets me access the settings for the Elgato camera instantly. But since I'm already happy with the settings, I don't need to do it. If I need to open it, I can go into the start menu. Now, this button here is the Stream Deck. This one here, I'm not going to exit from because that's what makes the Stream Deck work. It lets me configure it. And also, I'm not updating it because it asks me if I want to update it, because I don't update my Stream Deck unless I do a backup. Because last time I did like a major update on my Stream Deck, it messed up my settings. And then I had to rebuild the settings by hand. Pain in the ass. This is the one for my drawing tablet. I'm going to leave that open, but if I was going to do a stream and I wanted to free up memory, I close the drawing tablet. This is the icon for my scanner. Probably, I mean, I don't need it open right now, but it probably don't use a lot of memory. This is the icon for some MSI feature. We can close it. This is the icon for the GoPro. I don't even own a GoPro. I only downloaded the GoPro software so that I could get the video codec for you know, for like editing videos of the same format as GoPro. And so I'm going to take GoPro out of startup. In fact, what I should have done was open up the GoPro app first. And I think there's a way to do it, because like usually, so what you want to do is you want to take an icon out of startup. You wouldn't take the icon out of your startup by going to Task Manager. You would open up the app that is related to that, which is not presently open. Like, let's take what do you call it? This thing, for example, you know, Discord. We go to Discord, we go to settings, and you're gonna see a setting that says somewhere here like startup automatically or some crap like that. Wait, streamer mode is enabled? Here we go. Wait, no, I don't even know what streamer mode is. Oh, I see how that works. Okay, I gotta research what that is doing. But basically, somewhere in here, there's a setting that tells Discord whether you want it to start up automatically or not. It's under Windows settings. So whenever my computer starts up, open Discord. So a lot of people's reflex would be, if they didn't want Discord to start up automatically, they'd go to Task Manager, look for Discord. I'm going to zoom in on that. And they would look for Discord. They would literally look for like Discord in this list, which might not be listed as Discord here, apparently. But if Discord was here, they would right click on it and tell it to disable Discord from the startup. But instead, what I would do is I would go into the settings for Discord and uncheck startup automatically so that it doesn't start up automatically. And it's always better to disable the individual app, but when you're in a pinch, instead of going to the individual app and looking through the settings menu, it can be nice to disable that. But yeah, so long story short, before you go, if you are still here, is yeah, I do tutorial videos. I'm kind of doing one right now, but now jokes aside, I do once in a while do focused tutorial videos, and I do plan on doing more of those, and I should definitely do more. And shorts are a great idea, because the other day I was on with Orville Nation, the guy named PJ, who, you know, he's got the Orville channel. And yeah, he suggested that, and I was like, whatever topic I was talking about, I was saying this would be a perfect topic for shorts. So yeah, that's definitely a thing in the pipeline. And no apologies necessary. You have a good night and get some rest, because, you know, otherwise you might end up like me. And yeah, man, thanks for dropping by, and thanks for the well wishes and all that, and thanks for your concern. I appreciate it. But yeah, you have a good night, and you know, pleasant dreams. May the force be with you, etc. So now, before I go, I'm going to finalize my recording with one more recording. Okay, begin recording, and recording has started. Alrighty, So I recently picked up a Blu-ray copy of Voices of a Distant Star. Now, I have the DVD label removed right now because this package here has a double feature, I guess you would say. So I bought it because I wanted a copy of Voices of a Distant Star because I have a bootleg and I wanted a better copy of this. And it is a beautiful Blu-ray copy. I'm very happy I bought this version of it. But the only way I can get it on Blu-ray is if I bought it in a double feature, and which is fine. It cost me $30. Now, Voices of a Distant Star is only a half hour long, but the second movie on here is called, or the first movie as they label it, is called The Place Promised in Our Early Days. And this movie here is 90 minutes. So after watching Voices of a Distant Star this evening, I finished that in a half hour because it's only a half hour long. And I jumped over to watch this. And I watched like the first like 25 minutes of it. And it was actually pretty engaging. I thought it was going to be boring or something that I wouldn't care about. But it has a cool sci-fi plot to it as well. So glad that I got this on a double feature. But because the movie I bought was Voices of a Distant Star, I basically opened this up and I flipped the label over so that I could see the Voices of a Distant Star label instead. Although maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not good to fold it back and forth like that. You know, I might reconsider on that. But it has both movies. Like, it has the other movie on the back. It has Voices of a Distant Star. So you got front and back. Unless you read it like manga style, that'd be back and front, which is really their front. And basically, like I read, I think in an early recording, but because I don't want to recycle recordings, you know, this one here is about basically two guys and a girl. And they live in a province really close to, in Honshu, that is really close to Hokkaido. Hokkaido is the topmost island in Japan. And basically, they become fascinated by the gigantic, mysterious, yet mysterious tower that they see across the Togaru Strait, promising that one day they will build and fly an aircraft to the tower and unravel the mystery. Because nobody knows why it is this weird tower. To me, at first glance, it looked like a space elevator. But apparently it's like a tower, yeah. And it might be like some dimensional crap or something like that, you know, something. And basically, like, watching this movie, there's a big time jump, and like things get, the plot thickens. Let's just say the plot thickens. So that is kind of interesting, you know. And the second movie, which is the reason I bought this for, was basically Voices of a Distant Star. A young girl, a young pilot named Makako, volunteers to be sent out on a journey through space to join the fight against a hostile alien race. Leaving behind the man she loves, her only means of contact with him is via text message, which takes longer to reach him the further she travels from Earth. And we're talking about like this girl. That's actually why earlier in the stream I brought up the Oort cloud. I brought up the Kuiper belt because you know, this is like basically, you know, what she's dealing with, this girl, is like the solar system is kind of insane. Getting like a scale image of the solar system can sometimes be really tricky. Like, to put a hologram of the solar system in front of you and to see it all at once would actually be very, very difficult. Like, it just wouldn't fit. But what we do is we try to scale up or scale down the image. And apparently this guy's, okay, there we go. The advertisements are hitting me. So anyway, you can see here, we got the inner planets are all in this tiny circle. So everything from Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are all inside of this red circle. And then somewhere between the red circle and Jupiter, or unless the red circle is the asteroid belt, but basically, yeah, the asteroid belt is after Mars, but before Jupiter. So, okay, we got an asteroid belt. And we got Jupiter. Then we get to the outer planets. And now we're talking about much more distance between every, you know, planet thereafter. You know, so Mars to Jupiter is like as much distance, is more distance than what we get between like Mars and the Sun. And then we get, you know, Jupiter to Saturn, which isn't too bad. Then we get Uranus, and then we get Neptune. And at this point, Pluto is technically considered a trans-Neptunian object. At least that's one of the names we give, types of classification we give Pluto, because its orbit intersects with the Neptunian orbit periodically. But it also has a pretty elliptical orbit at that point, where you can see how the I always mix up these words. Let's see here. We're gonna look up what is it? Apogee and aphelion. So yeah, we got apogee aphelion, and apsis. An apsis is the farthest or nearest point in the orbit of a planetary body. The line of apsides is the line connecting the two extreme values. For example, the orbits of the sun, the apsides are called aphelion and perihelion. Okay. So which one is which? So aphelion is when it's furthest away. And perihelion is when you're the closest. So that's what Earth is, right? So getting to the other object here, right? So we got, I'm going to mix these up, aphelion and perihelion. So the perihelion of Pluto is over here because that's where it's closest to the sun. And the aphelion is over here. Aphelion and perihelion. Now, apparently for some reason, when we're talking about the moon and its elliptical orbit, we call the closest point to the Earth the perigee, and the furthest point is apogee. So I don't know why we use a different name for the lunar orbit versus that, but my guess is if you were a spaceship in orbit of the Earth, yeah, in Kerbal Space Program they use the same term. So when you're orbiting the Earth in a space or a rocket, you would have your perigee and apogee in place of your aphelion and periphelion, or vice versa. Periphelion is the closest one. So anyway, that is sort of like a bit of a overload of information there, but my point, or what I was looking to convey, was that in this science fiction movie, the girl goes out to Pluto basically, and they get attacked by the aliens, and basically during that battle they have to like bug out. They got to get out, and they decide we're gonna go 1 light year out. Now you see in this map here, we got Pluto, we got Eris, and Eris is a cool planet because we don't know the exact size, but we know that it is about the same size as Pluto, and it is about the same density as Pluto. Yeah, so Eris is about the same size and same density of Pluto, and I'm looking for a picture of it right now. I thought I had a picture of it in my history. Here we go. Oh, that's the web page. Come on, give me a picture, buddy. There it is. Okay, that's a picture of Eris right there. So, you know, we're not dealing with a lot of data here. We can't really accurately measure its size and density, but we know it's got a moon or a satellite around it. You know, and that was taken, and its moon's name is Dysnomia. Yep, Dysnomia. So yeah, Eris and Dysnomia. Taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so anyway, that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing that Pluto, in fact, oh, this is an even bigger scale. Okay, good. So I'm glad I found this picture. So now I want to get to the other picture I was looking at. I'm going to do these back and forth. So anyway, you'll notice that the asteroid belt isn't listed here, but it's between Mars and Jupiter. Then you have the Kuiper belt. And the Kuiper belt is sort of like the asteroid belt. It's basically flat or along the plane of the ecliptic. So it's not like, it's only almost more or less one-dimensional. Like, sure, it's got some depth to it, but it's mostly one-dimensional. And then we go about right here. And now you see that we still got Pluto. We still got Eris. We got perihelion and aphelion of both planets here. So their closest point and furthest point in orbit. And as you see, we get to some of these like further planets, these like outside Pluto objects, these dwarf planets. And now we're talking about like fairly significantly more elliptical orbits. I mean, now like the closest point in Eris's orbit and the furthest point of its orbit is like 3 times further than Pluto. So it's a significant difference, whereas the closest point in the orbit practically intersects orbit at one point, intersects Pluto's orbit at one point. So we get pretty close at that point, you know? I mean, they don't necessarily cross that line at the same time generally, right? I mean, the statistics of that, I don't know if there's ever a point in time where they do collide, but it hasn't happened yet. So meanwhile, we're looking at Sedna, which is another dwarf planet. So just like Eris, you know, both of these are considered, you know, dwarf planets, because if we want to, there's a problem with calling Pluto a planet, is that if you call Pluto a planet, we now have to call Eris and Sedna a planet, and that makes things complicated. You know, it's like, you know, it's like how many more planets, because there's more objects than these two. So now you're going to have like 12 more planets. Now, to be fair, when we talk about dwarf planets, some of them don't really look like planets at all, right? Like this is like almost like a weirdly shaped oblong rock. You got Maki Maki. And if we do like maybe a scale comparison, that would be like the best way to do this in my opinion. If this is actually accurate. Really? Is that the biggest image you're going to give me, guys? All right, there we go. So, you know, allegedly this is to scale. So we got our moon, Eris. In this particular one, they're claiming that Eris is actually bigger than Pluto, whereas in other documents I've seen that they said Pluto is bigger than Eris. So maybe that's because they've gotten more refined imaging data on it. In fact, I think this recent image here was captured by one of the probes that went past Pluto or some crazy shit, the New Horizons probe. So that might be why we have this clearer shot, unless it's a guess or hypothesis. Eris was discovered only in 2003, and you can see, I mean, looking at those orbits once again, it makes sense. I mean, like, it was hard enough to see Pluto. Pluto we found because we knew that there was something affecting the orbit of these outer planets, and we concluded or hypothesized that there would be another object out here. As it turns out, Pluto might not even be the object we were looking for, because Pluto is not big enough to exert that much gravitational influence on the objects near it. So some people speculate there's something else out there still, like whatever you want to call it, Planet X, Planet 9. But there may be another large object out there that we just haven't seen yet, because there's such a wide field to look. And when they were looking for Pluto, they basically calculated where they think Pluto should be. So they knew that they only had to search in a very narrow, a relatively small space compared to where they would otherwise be searching. Like, you know, searching the entire area. Especially now, we're talking about these elliptical orbits here, like, you know, Eris and Sedna. And when we're dealing with those now, we're not just looking at a one-dimensional oval here, but some of these will have a slight... So while most planets will do this type of orbit, or maybe they'll do a slight inclination, some of these other dwarf planets will go up and over. Like, they won't go completely over, but they're on a pretty significant angle, you know? So now you can't just look on the plane of the ecliptic, which is a flat plane. Now you got to be looking up and around, so that makes things a bit difficult. And 2012 VP113. I don't even know what 2012 VP113 is, but we're going to find out. So 2012 VP113 is also known by his nickname Biden. What the fuck? Pardon my French. So yeah, there's a moon. There's a dwarf planet called Biden, nicknamed Biden. It is a trans-Neptunian object, probably because just like, you know, Sedna, Pluto, and Eris, which I don't know. Actually, no, it does this. I guess it does. I guess. Wait, where's Neptune's orbit? I gotta research what trans-Neptunian means. I can see why Pluto is a trans-Neptunian, and you know, because Pluto literally crosses the orbit of Neptune. So I see that as a trans-Neptunian object, but I don't see anything here that shows me these objects crossing through Neptune's orbit. But whatever. Okay, these guys claim it's a trans-Neptunian object. Maybe Biden forgot where it's located. So anyway, it is an object of the Sednoid population, so that must have some relationship with Sedna, I guess, or objects like Sedna, located in the outermost reaches of the solar system. It was first observed on November 5th, 2012 by American astronomers John Shepard and Chad Terullo, I think it's Spanish, and Ciro Tololo, okay, I gotta practice that, in the at the Inter-American Observatory in Chile. Well, that explains the Spanish name. They got very clear weather in Chile, like that mountainous area. They got very good seeing conditions. The discovery was announced on March 26, 2014. The object probably measures somewhere between 300 and 1,000 kilometers in diameter, possibly large enough to be a dwarf planet. So, you know, we don't even have an exact, like, hammering down of the size and mass of it. 2012 VP113 is the minor planet with the farthest known perihelion, closest approach to the sun and the solar system. So in other words, its closest approach to the sun is still the farthest known of that type of measurement. Though the perihelion is farther than 2012 VP113, though the perihelion is farther, 2012 VP113 has an aphelion only about half of Sedna's. It's the second discovered Sednoid. with a semi-major axis beyond 150 astronomical units and periphelion greater than 50 astronomical units. So yeah, we're talking about, once again, reread that once again. At its closest point to the sun, that object is 50 AU, and at its furthest point, it's 150 AU, and that is why we're seeing this obscenely elliptical orbit here. And what I like about this diagram here is, whoops. Okay, I can't open that image in a new tab. Okay, there we go. So yeah, we got, I think this is a side view. Yeah, this is exactly what I want to show you guys. So over here, we got the polar view, which is from the top. And you can see like, that's 50 AU and this is like 150 AU. Now, AU is the distance between the Earth and the Sun is 1 AU, or the average distance between the Earth and the Sun is considered 1 astronomical unit. So, you know, it's pretty far out on either end, but what I find interesting, well, first let's talk about finding it. Finding these objects is difficult because of the resolution of the telescopes looking for them. But also, I mean, just looking at this side here, the side view. So while most of the solar system, most of the stuff inside the blue circle and all of the inner planets are essentially on a flat plane that you can barely see here. Okay, so that blue line and all the other colors are basically on a flat plane. Then we look at Pluto. And Pluto, is that Pluto? Yeah, Pluto is on like a roughly diagonal plane. It's still pretty straight, but you can see how like even that took so long to find because it wasn't that bright and you'd have to know where to look for it in order to even find it. But now, was Pluto affecting the orbit of Neptune or whatever outer planet they were speculating on? Because at the time, that's how they found Pluto. They speculated that something was influencing the outer planets, and they knew mathematically they needed to look in a certain area. And when they looked, they found something. But the speculation is that Pluto has such a weird orbit, and this here, 2012 VP113, have such a weird orbit because maybe there's another object out there, perhaps a very massive and very dark object that is exerting influence on these outer objects. It's also possible that just being an outer object that might reduce the influence of the sun's gravity. As you're further out there, the sun's gravity might exert less influence, and maybe that's why these guys have such weird angular orbits. But just thought it's worth noting the side view as well as the polar view or top view, top down. And then we got some references to Sednoids. So we got Sedna, we got the inner and outer planets here. Then you got probably, I don't even see Pluto here. I don't know if that circle there represents Pluto. I'm going to guess not, but either way, like, this is like the magnitude we're talking about when we're looking at the whole entire solar system. And now we get these really weird elliptical orbits. So this is where it lends credence to some of the crazy stuff I heard, where like, one conspiracy theory I heard was something to do with the Tower of Babel story. And a person speculated that whatever cyclical disaster happens that causes earthquakes or cataclysms on Earth within a very, you know, like specific time period, every 15,000 years, we get like a major disaster or something like that in the geological record. And so one speculation was that we have a brown dwarf star way out there somewhere on an extremely elliptical orbit. And so when it's on this side of its orbit, we barely see it. We don't encounter any issues related to it. It doesn't cause any earthquakes, nothing. But as it comes closer to Earth, yeah, it's going to cause, you know, earthquakes, the gravity from a large Jovian-like object. Like, imagine Jupiter, but on a really wide orbit. Every 15,000 years, it comes for a close pass. That might cause the earthquake that took down the Tower of Babel. And in the Tower of Babel story, I'm not a Bible expert at all, but as I vaguely understand it, people either lost the ability to speak or lost the ability to use their languages. And I mean, I've gotten arguments with my coworker where like, he'd be like, no, it wasn't that they lost the ability to speak, it was the languages were separated or some shit like that. And I get that part, but if you were to read between the lines, that, you know, there's something going on with the language, the people's ability to use language and speak. And so one guy speculated that what was happening was a brown dwarf star has, you know, imagine something like Jupiter, but darker, but something with a lot of radiation, something that's emitting a ton of radiation. And so as that radioactive body comes by, you can barely see it, or you maybe start to see it, but it's really hard to see. And then as you get closer to it and the radiation emission hits you, the guy speculated that maybe it was causing people's synapses to disconnect. So as the synapses in their brains were disconnecting, they lost the ability to speak. They lost IQ points, essentially. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not sold on it, but I'm also kind of curious about that theory. It's like I'm not, I don't have any evidence to support it, but it's something that I keep in my list of possibilities because it sounds kind of cool. I find it somewhat compelling. So, there may be other objects, but it seems that right now, if we're finding these really small objects, then it's probably unreasonable for me to be thinking that we are bound to find a large object. That might not be reasonable to think that we're going to find a large object, because if we're having, as not an easy time, but we're able to find large, small objects in the outer solar system, then maybe, why aren't we finding larger objects? Either they're not there, or, I don't know. I'm just going to guess they're not there. So now it is the cool one here. This is the Oort cloud. So before we saw that really wide diagram. So we saw Pluto. We saw Sedna. And you can see over here now, you got I think this might be Sedna, because, you got an object here crossing into the Kuiper belt. So basically you got Jupiter, you got Mars and Jupiter. Between Mars and Jupiter, you have the asteroid belt, which we see over here. Then out past the asteroid belt, you have Jupiter. You got, the other outer planets, and then Pluto. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if we can get a count here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess 5. Yeah, so okay, that looks like Pluto. So Pluto cuts through the Oort cloud if I'm looking at the right diagram. And the Oort cloud is a lot like the asteroid belt, but bigger. It has icy rocks in there. It's got comets. It's got things in there. But, essentially it's like a flat ecliptical. It's on the plane of the ecliptic. And, it's out past Pluto more or less. But then, even outside the Oort cloud, you got, outside the Kuiper belt, even outside of the Kuiper belt, you then have the Oort cloud. And now this thing here is just enormous. Okay, I remember I used the number for some of the other dwarf planets. I mentioned 50 to 150 AU. The Oort cloud is hundreds of AU in length. Some insane number like that. You have 20 AU, then you have 50 AU. It just gets pretty big. And even crazier is the Oort cloud is more or less spherical. Now, in this diagram, it seems they show you areas where it's more dense along the plane of the ecliptic, and it sort of donuts out. And, there's objects in all directions. So a lot of it is ice, icy rocks, comets. So a speculation is that you have a lot of comets on very large orbits, very wide orbits, elliptical orbits that will, like Halley's Comet came by in 1986. It won't come by for another 1,000 years or some insane time like that. Well, stuff like that, some of it comes from the Oort cloud, and sometimes it doesn't come on a flat trajectory. Sometimes they're coming on a vertical trajectory, and that's pretty much, what you get from that. And we know that ice will remain ice when it's out there, but as it gets closer to the sun, yeah, it's going to melt, it's going to outgas, it's going to subliminate into, steam, basically. And that may not be what all comets do, but I do take exception with some extent of the electric universe theory, because I think that sometimes hardcore advocates of the electric universe are willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They want to believe that there's something here. Wait, yeah, what is? Oh, it's my keyboard. There we go. I just want to get it out of the frame if I could. But I understand where they're coming from. But I've seen one person, they watched a documentary called The Electric Comet. And basically the guy was saying that, I watched all these science documentaries. The guy says he used to eat up all the science documentaries. And then he saw the documentary called The Electric Comet. And he was like, it made so much sense that, basically by seeing that one documentary, he threw everything out and basically bought into this new version of cosmology. And I don't see why that person had to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And also it's it made so much sense, but you said the other stuff didn't even make sense, and suddenly this other thing makes sense. Now I get it. Sometimes when somebody has to explain something to you in excessive detail, they don't know what they're talking about. That's sometimes a thing that happens. And other times someone has such a good understanding that they can explain it in excruciating detail, so you can't discount it all the time. But yeah, Electric Comet basically was making the claim that comets are not made of ice. It's not what they always mock the concept of it being a dirty snowball, because when you say, imagine you got rocks, gravel, and ice, you sort of start picturing a dirty snowball. they take exception with that in this documentary. And they claim that the outside of a comet is surrounded by electrical stuff, ionization and stuff like that. And that when you see a comet outgassing, you're not looking at the ice melting or the ice turning into vapor. You're seeing electromagnetic phenomenon or some crap like that. And they try to support this claim by taking one of the probes that explored comets. I think there was a, what was it, NEO was? There was a comet that went really close to, there was a probe that went really close to a comet. I think it landed on the comet, or at least entered a tight orbit. And the claim is that, oh, that probe detected some electrical ionization shit. Therefore, the comet is not made of ice. And the vapor you see around a comet is not ice, but it's electrons or some crap like that. Plasma or something. But, I mean, it seems like a lazy conclusion. It's even lazy for somebody to eat that conclusion up on face value, because, like, it's one thing for the person who's got their pet theory favoring that conclusion, but I think it's intellectually lazy to eat that theory up without considering what other factors could be at play. Because, like, yes, NASA detected the, electrons, but they didn't say that these electrons prove that this is not ice water. They just said that we also detected electrons along with cometary snow. They did detect snow. They detected icy snow, because, like, you do have essentially a type of snow on that comet, as a result of the ice coming up and down, basically. But what you could figure is easily enough. Like, okay, let's think about this logically here. The sun emits, particles, solar flares, electromagnetic stuff. Okay, so, I mean, like, once again, I don't think the sun is a purely electric phenomenon, but yeah, there's electrical stuff that happens. The sun has magnetic fields all around it. Solar flares, prominences, literally follow loops of magnetic fields. So yes, there are magnetic fields. There are electrical currents. You have plasma. Plasma is an electrically charged gas, so it's no secret, it's no surprise that there's an electromagnetic phenomenon or multiple phenomena involving the sun. But people will go from that and just somehow, like, completely ignore, the conventional wisdom about the sun in favor of it being some ball of electrons or some shit like that. And I know it's like, it's a bit pseudoscientific, I guess, But getting back to the comets, so, okay, you got a comet, and it gets close to the sun, and the ice starts to, turn into water, and the water starts turning into vapor, sublimating, as they call it. Now, if you're approaching an electromagnetic phenomenon, you have particles, charged particles, coming from the sun, interacting with the water, vapor, and gas around your comet, then yeah, I'd imagine that a probe that's flying to that region of the comet would detect some electromagnetic phenomena, or some electrons and some shit. But just because you're detecting electrons doesn't mean that you don't have water, you don't have ice there. You could charge water with electrical charges. You could charge water vapor or molecules of steam with electrical charges. So, yeah, that's why, like, that documentary, like, I just felt like they're trying to say something is mutually exclusive from the conventional theories or conventional sciences when they're not really mutually exclusive. And, if you want that pet theory, to be, the one that wins out, then yeah, you might try to push that notion that these are mutually exclusive. But anyway, I think, I went off topic. I was talking about Voices of a Distant Star. And so, yeah, the girl goes out to Pluto, and then during a battle, they have to bug out, and they go and they use the hyperdrive or whatever they got to warp out 1 light year. And 1 light year out brings them into the Oort cloud, which can extend between 1 and 2 light years. And then at that point, it would literally take a year for her message to get back to her boyfriend. But for some reason, it takes longer in the movie. Probably because, oh yeah, so I didn't even, yeah, so like I said, what I might not have mentioned was this girl in her mech, she's a mech pilot, and she can only exchange messages with her high school boyfriend through, she can only exchange text messages. She's got a cell phone. We're going to assume that the cell phone is, relaying the signal between the, the mothership back to Earth. We're going to assume that it's using the, communications ability of that stuff, of that military equipment. But, yeah, the time extends more because, like, I think what's happening is there's people on the ship that have to censor the messages, just like on a submarine, a nuclear sub. You have people who are responsible for, reading the messages, scrubbing out confidential information, or possibly even blocking the whole message. But generally, I think they only block messages. Like, if you get a message from someone telling you that your mom died or your grandma died, they don't always give that message to the crewmen because they don't want the crew to get distracted by the knowledge of a family member dying. You're going to be stuck underwater for 2 months regardless. They're not going to bring the submarine up just to get you to a funeral or to get you to mope about it. So it's no point in, messing up your performance or psychological condition on the ship. So, they read them. Every person on a submarine has a special email address that is used for that purpose, that facilitates for the proper, review of messages and potential censorship of said messages. But yeah, so anyway, where was I? So the director is Makoto Shinkai. And yeah, this guy originally made the half-hour film Voices of a Distant Star. He was working for some video game studio and he realized he had access to like animation tools that were really powerful in 2002. And he grinded on this, and then he got some extra help on it eventually, and really, made something beautiful. And I gotta say, both movies, Voices of a Distant Star and The Place Promised in Our Early Days, beautifully animated. I mean, these are works of art. I mean, these are like images here are straight from the animation. Like you can see this, it looks like a partially built train station or something like that. And you see the field, and you got the guy and the kids in the field, and you got this little shack, and it's all very nicely animated. The faces are nice. Even though I think this is widescreen, semi-high def basically, there are scenes when they give you a wide shot of a character, the faces look like they're barely there, but they do that in a lot of anime before the 2000s, like Macross 7, which I gotta find. I don't even know if they have Macross 7 on Blu-ray, so I tried to get Macross 7 on Blu-ray, and I almost bought it. Then I found that they have these reproduction copies, these custom copies, where they're not official releases, but they have the subtitles. So I might still buy one of them, but I want to make sure I'm getting the right thing. Because they had one collector's edition that's from Japan, but has English subtitles. But I can only find part 1 and not part 2. So in lieu of that, I would rather get the Chinese knockoff reproduction, as long as I know the quality is good. It looked like the quality was good. Like the guy looked like he did his due diligence to make a quality Blu-ray, custom Blu-ray copy of this TV series. So I don't care, if he's going to be the only one making it available, the entire series in great quality, then I'll buy from that guy, And the fact that he does have the English subtitles, it's like great. He added English subtitles to something that did not have English subtitles. So that's one less thing you got to worry about, because there's other things that I want to buy on Blu-ray that don't come with English subtitles, and some of them I can add subtitles to, but I can't really test that until I have the movie in my hands. So I'm definitely afraid of spending like hundreds of dollars on something to find out that I can't add subtitles to it, So, buying the Chinese knockoff of Macross 7 might actually be a good idea, but got to do research. But this was easy because this was already done. This year, what is really interesting about these two DVDs are the audio tracks. And that is where I want to segue to. So when I bought Voices of a Distant Star on Blu-ray, along with The Place Promised in Our Early Days, it came in a double feature. The label was on the box like this, so that you can basically see the barcode, and you got the main feature. This movie, The Place Promised in Our Early Days, is like 90 minutes. Voices of a Distant Star is only a half hour. So it kind of makes sense that it takes the priority over Voices of a Distant Star. I initially flipped the label over so that I can see Voices of a Distant Star on the cover, but I'm going to put it back in the way I found it, because I don't want to ruin the cardboard or the cardstock paper by folding it backwards too many times. At least I don't know if I want to do that yet, but I might, but anyway, I want to keep it clean, right? So anyway, what was really interesting about this Blu-ray disc is the amount of audio tracks we had on it. It's a weird box. So if I go back into Leonardo da Vinci, and even though I have an ultra-wide monitor, I'm going to shrink the window so that you guys can see what I'm doing, even though I like using my ultra-wide monitor more. So anyway, if I play this, what I do is when I buy a Blu-ray, I immediately copy it to my server, or I copy the Blu-ray disc. And when you use Make MKV, it literally, in this particular disc, it was nice. Each movie was self-contained in its own file. So when it ripped it, it converted the Blu-ray files or Blu-ray video content into MKV files. So Voices of a Distant Star is a half hour, that's 6 gigs. The other movie is 90 minutes, it's 26 gigs. And that's like in the exact original Blu-ray format. No funny business, you know, no like, no, you know, no mess, like, you know, like they didn't, the quality is good. And we can even go here, we can go to like, we can go to tools. So basically, like, what I mean by no funny business is when I ripped the Blu-ray disc, there was no compression, no additional compression applied. This is exactly the format that was on the disc. It says here and here that this is an MPEG-4 or H.264, MPEG-4 AVC, which is like standard across all Blu-ray content. And you can take any movie, convert it to X.264. You can copy a DVD, convert it to the same format, and you'll usually get a smaller file, especially if you're willing to compromise quality a little bit. You'll get an even smaller file. And we got, you know, that the audio is a little more interesting. So, you know, in the case of Voices of a Distant Star, it says 1080p, but it's not widescreen. So essentially, we got black bars on the side. That's part of the video frame. So if I was to, you know, convert this and compress it in a video encoder, I would probably eliminate the black bars like I typically do. And then the other cool thing about this was the audio track. So we can once again check that 2 different ways. We got this saying here, we got 29 frames a second. So it might be 24 frames, but it says 29 frames a second here, 29.97. We got audio. Now the audio gets really interesting. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 audio streams. 7, 8. What is that? Subtitles. That's subtitles. We got like we got multiple audio streams. We got like 5 audio streams or 5 audio tracks. So this one's English. Now one of the English audio tracks is English in DTS audio. The next one is English DTS audio 5.1. So this one here says, this doesn't say surround sound, but I think it's surround sound because it says 3 front, 2 middle, LFE, low frequency effects. So essentially that's surround sound. Then this one here says English 5.1. So this is also surround sound. So we got what looks like surround sound audio tracks. Then you got Japanese surround sound. Then you got a PCM or AVAR, which is basically wave file, more or less. You got a PCM audio track in stereo for Japanese. And the only thing I'm confused about is when I played it on my TV, I was able to pick between, basically bottom line was there was 2 audio tracks for English, one in surround sound and one in stereo. So you got 2 channel or 5.1 surround sound. Then for the Japanese audio track, same thing. They had one in stereo and another in 5.1. So you have audio tracks that are optimized for either surround sound or conventional stereo if you don't have surround sound and you feel it sounds better that way. But this listing confuses me. So another way to check out tracks is while playing in VLC Media Player, we right click on it, go to audio track, and you can see here, the audio track that's currently selected is surround sound 5.1 in English. The next audio track is, oh damn it. The next audio track is also English. The third audio track is English in stereo. The next one is 5.1 Japanese and in stereo Japanese. And then, I don't know, so there's 2 surround sound Japanese tracks. I'm a little confused by that right now. But they all work. Like, I mean, I can play it. So if I go and I select, oh, did I mute it? I think the stereo sounds better on stereo headphones. We now got subtitles turned on now. Another oddity is that we have more subtitle tracks. So we got 2 English tracks. So this particular subtitle track seems to be more focused on like translating the text on screen. So that's kind of weird because it means that, at least with the current settings in this application, I can't turn on both subtitle tracks at the same time. And so there's parts in here where you want to read what's written on the wall. And what I've been doing is opening up Google Translate on my phone and basically taking a picture and translating the picture. But I just learned now by accident that I can turn on a subtitle track that is separate and translates these messages. So anyway, that's not the big problem. My big problem was that when I went to bring it into DaVinci Resolve for editing, as you can see here, we have 4 audio tracks. So I think I'm missing an audio track. But even worse off is I can't immediately tell which one is stereo or surround sound. And one way I could do that is by playing them, unmuting them one at a time. Okay, that must be a surround sound track because I'm hearing nothing when it's supposed to say something, right? So we're gonna mute that and assume it's surround sound. All right, we're gonna play that part. So from the top, we got track 1. Next track. I only hear sound on one ear. That might be a messed up surround sound track because I'm literally only hearing sound on my right side right now. Okay, bottom line is track 1 seems to be English stereo. Track 2 seems to be Japanese, possibly surround sound. Track 3, I can hear it on both ears now. That is Japanese. And then once again, I can hear Japanese in my right ear. So I'm guessing that's some kind of surround sound thing. But theoretically, if I was only doing English for whatever video I want to edit, to share with people, to demonstrate, like to talk about a review, I could probably just use the English audio track. Adding subtitles is a little bit trickier to DaVinci. I'm not really sure how to do it, but one way I know how is use a video encoder like Handbrake or Hybrid. And then you can burn in the subtitles. So instead of toggling the subtitles like we do over here, by selecting them on and off, we can literally tell the video encoder to like force the subtitles. So one way we do that here, if we wanted to use Handbrake, which I'm not going to use, I prefer not to, but I'll demonstrate it here because it's really easy. We might pick a preset. We might pick like 10-bit color. And I have a preset already. It crops it automatically to 1440 by 1080, which is basically when you subtract the black bars on the left and right, that's the resolution that you get. You go from 1920 by 1080 to 1440. So you narrow it up a bit by getting, in fact, you're removing 480 pixels from the left and right in total, or 240 from the left and right respectively. But about those subtitles, so here's the subtitles that it automatically decided to pick up on. And so it got foreign audio scan, which is usually like when you have something in English and you got characters speaking Klingon or Japanese, these subtitles will come up automatically. They're burned into the screen so that you can't turn them off. And they're useful for, like I said, when there's a scene when a character is speaking a foreign language from the primary language. Sometimes these don't come into play at all, but it's good to leave it on automatically. Now, as for the subtitles that you can toggle on and off, we got English over here, and we got English over here. So essentially, one of these subtitles will have the captions for the characters speaking. The other one has the captions for the things written on the wall. Like they show you a Japanese newspaper, you can have these. So I want to preserve both. So right now I'm on track 2. So I'm gonna say cards. I don't know. I gotta give that a different name. English characters, English speaking dialogue. Should I put a capital D in there? English dialogue and on-screen translation. Basically like newspapers, posters. Or maybe we'll call it posters. I don't really know. But essentially what I would do is I would make it so I could turn on and off the English subtitle. But I would burn in this subtitle here. I would say burn it in like that. And so that now I will always see that subtitle printed up on the screen. And I'm not forced to pick, because like if I can only turn on one subtitle at a time, then if I want to see these translations, I have to burn them in. So essentially what it'll do now is I will be able to have the bottom subtitle toggle on and off. And this subtitle will be part of the video now. It won't be toggleable, but it'll be part of it. Now, let's say I want to watch it without these translations. Then really my only option is to make 2 versions. So what I would do is I'd give it a file name, followed by a hyphen. And I call this one, you know, just burned in. And then the other one would be called regular or something like that, you know. But essentially my media server that I use, MB, as long as you put a hyphen at the end of the file name, it can isolate different versions. It can make it so that when you click on one movie, you get a pull down menu with different versions of the same movie, which can be nice sometimes, especially if you have a special edition and unspecial edition, or, you know, despecialized edition. So now if I was to use Handbrake, I can, you know, double check now. Right here, look, it says only 1 audio track. So we're going to add all remaining audio tracks. And we can, you know, we can make them all available. So DTS HD. Now, instead of keeping this codec, we make it into another one to get the file to be smaller. And you got one at a time. We got track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4. It's a little convoluted. And, you know, you might decide to get the file to be smaller and eliminate one entire audio track. Like if you don't have surround sound, you might decide you want to eliminate the surround sound track. And perhaps I do. Perhaps I want to eliminate the surround sound track. I'm going to do like multiple versions, but yeah, we're going to do... so basically we got stereo for English and Japanese stereo. And to double check the confusion, we got, I think, DTS and DTS HD. So this was happening. I bought a Sequest on Blu-ray, and there was 2 audio tracks that were in DTS but stereo. And essentially, one of them is there for compatibility, and the other one is better quality. So it's a little confusing, but yeah, you don't need both of them. But the idea is that if your machine doesn't play one of these audio tracks, it plays the other one. Yep, very confusing, I know. Now, I don't know what DTS HDMA means, but I think I'm going to keep it for now for testing purposes. But generally, these would be the only 2 tracks I would keep. In fact, you know what? We're going to eliminate them for now so that we keep it real simple. So we got our subtitle settings are going to stay. This here, we could make it probably higher, but generally, I don't want to make it any lower than 22 because that's how I lose a lot of quality. The slower the encoding, the bigger the file in this case, and the better the quality. So that, you know, it's a matter of choice. The color, I picked 10-bit color, but do I need 10-bit color? I forget. You have to literally Google BT709. Yeah, I'm honestly not sure if this is 10-bit color or not. My friend is like, he says he likes Linus Tech Tips, but it pains him to like him, but he likes him. And it's like, he's not bad. Like, sometimes I remember he was chilling at one of these gaming conventions, but, you know, Linus is not bad. You know, he does some cool stuff. Wait, that's not Linus. I just saw a picture of Linus. Did I click that just now? Oh, yeah, it was Reddit. Media info. I did that. And this guy says it works perfectly. All right, so I guess I now have to check if I can figure it out too. So this guy said that using media info works. Now it says 24-bit. That might be the audio information. It's a very weird way to make the window. I feel like I'm going way too deep. That the answer I'm looking for was on a simpler page, but I mean, we're here now. Interesting. I did not know it's a variable bit rate. Eight-bit color. Perfect. Good. So that's important to me to know whether this is 8-bit color. And I did that using the tree view in media info. And that matters to me because why waste storage capacity? I don't know if it makes the file significantly larger, but now we know we could pick H.265 without picking 10-bit color. No filters, no other filters needed. We got all our subtitle settings. So even though I said I wasn't going to use Handbrake, I'm going to leave it here for now. Wait, actually, let's rename it. And I'm going to then demonstrate how to do it in the other program. Okay, so we got that available. Now, the program I really like to use more is called Hybrid, and it's got a more convoluted interface. So let's declutter my screen a little bit. So first thing we want to do is in Hybrid, we want to add the file we want to encode. So before I do that, I'm going to make sure I have the parameters I want. I want to convert this AVC MPEG-4 H.264 file. I want to convert it into a H or X.265 codec. So right off the bat, I already picked the codec I want to convert it to. And for the audio, I'm going to tell it to automatically add all of the audio tracks. And we're going to proceed. So all we got to do is take this, put it into the input field. And once we do that, it's going to scan it. It's going to do some identifying. And since it was only a half hour long, it already did it. So now we're going to move that up. And we're going to make sure we add all subtitles. So we're going to click on that, click the plus sign, and it says no output folder specified. I might have done something. Oh, there we go. I think I had to hit that button. What does it do? Extract subtitles. All right, that may not have been necessary, but the important thing is that I'm supposed to be seeing subtitles here. And if I'm not, that's a real pain in my ass. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to hit the plus sign, but it didn't work. So I'm going to double check that. That's a real bummer. That means I'm going to have to find out how to get the subtitles out of this stupid thing. Right, so maybe if I tell it to extract subtitles to a particular folder, it'll work, but this will only import subtitles. All right, let's give it an output folder. That is an important step. All right, so we got our output file. We're going to change it to an MKV. Because by default, it wanted to give me an MP4, but I want an MKV. So now, let's try this again. Well, that's interesting. That time it took longer to process. Look, so maybe that's all I needed to do. Maybe it couldn't add subtitles from an MKV to an MP4. But it looks like it's willing to do the subtitles if I do it in MKV output. So, okay, we'll give it a minute to process. And we'll see what happens. See, sometimes when the computer is doing something and I'm not sure if it's actually frozen or not, I go to the task manager, and if I see the CPUs are chugging along, then I can be somewhat confident that the computer is actually doing something. It's reading video, or is it reading the video over the network? Yeah, it's reading it over the network. So you can even see that the Ethernet is active right now. It's running at like almost a gigabit speed, about, you know, anywhere from 10 to 100 megabytes a second. In fact, it was running at close to 100 megabytes a second, which, yeah, gigabit is basically 100 megs a second. But yeah, let's see here. We're gonna go back here, go here, and see if we got the subtitles now. And we've got something. Yeah, actually, it's exactly what we want. We got it. Okay, so yeah, that was interesting. So in this particular case, it wouldn't let me add the subtitles from the original source file, this MKV that came straight from a Blu-ray. It wouldn't let me add the subtitles until I switched the output container to MKV, which is perfectly fine because we were already coming from an MKV going into an MKV. And that is how I was able to click this plus sign and get my subtitles. When it was set to MP4, this part came up blank. When I had this set to MP4, I was not able to add the subtitle tracks. But now we got both subtitle tracks, and there are ways to do more things to these. Like if I want to burn in a subtitle track, there might be a way to do it. Okay, good. I found the answer. So, I'm gonna guess that the second subtitle track is the one with the, you know, the translations of what's on screen. So we're gonna modify it. I'm gonna say set as forced. Embed in frame. Oh, this is kind of bizarre. So I think forced just forces them to turn on, but I don't know if that means you can have multiple subtitles on at the same time. That's something I'm gonna have to experiment. But over here it says embed subtitle in frame, overwrite ASS styling, which is a type of subtitle standard. Actually, it's a very magnificent type of subtitle standard. I don't know what it means by overwrite the styling. I'm going to leave it alone for now, and if it comes out looking ugly, then you can alter it. But for now, we got that. So there we go. We're good to go now. Circling back, we're going to let it crop it automatically. This will basically take off 240 pixels from either side of the frame in order to, you know, get rid of the vertical black bars. It's going to keep the resolution, but here's an interesting part. I'm glad I'm paying attention here. It was going to lower the vertical resolution, which is what we don't want. So we can either just uncheck resizing, and it automatically gives me what I want, 1440 by 1080. So this is one of the weird things about this program, is that you got to watch it. It will sometimes do things automatically that you don't want it to do, and if you're not paying attention, you know, you'll get a less desired effect. But now we got what we want. We got 1440 by 1080. We got the correct amount of pixels being subtracted from either side of the frame. We got our video rate factor. Constant rate factor is the way that it makes decisions on what bit rate to use at any given time, and essentially the higher that number is when you have it set to that mode, the higher this number, the lower your quality is, and the smaller your file is. And I would say I would never go above 23. I would never go below 20, although and definitely never below 18. 18 is like an extreme for standard definition, but if you need pristine quality, you can go as low as 18, and beyond that, you probably won't even see a difference. We don't need any filters, but we need audio. And we got all of the audio tracks here, as you can see. So right now, if I don't touch anything, it'll convert it to AAC audio format, and AAC will definitely get you a splendidly small file. Like, the quality will be good, especially if I crank up the bitrate. So instead of doing 160k per second, I'll do 192 kilobits per second, which interestingly, when I downloaded Macross 7, that was the setting the person used. Macross 7, they encoded it at 192k per second, probably because it's a music-centric anime. There's more music in Macross 7, so they felt that, we better, make sure we don't compromise on audio quality. But I could choose something else. I could choose FLAC, which is an uncompressed. Basically, it's not quite compressed. It doesn't use lossy compression, meaning that the compression used does not compromise quality, but you might choose not to use it because of compatibility. If you're, obsessed with OGG, you could use that. You got options here, but you can also keep the original audio. You can literally tell it just to pass through the audio. And if you do pass through, that will literally keep the same audio. Like, it won't even re-encode it. It won't compress it. It'll literally duplicate the audio, which can be great, except that now you'll have like a 300 megabyte audio track or a 600 megabyte audio track when you can get it down to like 100 megs if you were to use FLAC. And if you use AAC, you can get it down to like 50 megabytes or something like that. So, you make compromises depending on what your preferences are. Also, one thing I noticed about FLAC was it was very fast, like, at running the compression. The only reason I might not use FLAC is if I had a real surround sound system or, proper surround sound, I might decide that I want to keep it in the original audio format so that, you get proper compatibility, so that the hardware has compatible codecs built into it. But in this case, it's a tough decision. I think AAC is fine, but I'm going to do FLAC. And now, it doesn't change the audio, and deleting them and adding them manually is a pain in the ass. So how do I change the codec setting for all of the audio tracks? Well, really easy. Just kind of backwards. You go back to here in the beginning, under bass. You click ignore. Then you click auto add all again. And now when the audio tab pops back up, you'll see now we have all of the audio tracks. And since I set this to FLAC before clicking that button earlier, I know that all of these are in FLAC, although you could scroll horizontally and you'll also see the original format and the output format. So somewhere in here, it'll say FLAC. I don't see it right now, but I know it's set. So we got like the original formats here: DTS HD, DTS, PCM, AC3, PCM, and AC3. And somewhere else, it probably says FLAC. Yep, there we go. It says FLAC right across the board. Quality 5. Now, I don't think that's quality, that's compression. And I've done experiments. I brought it up to maximum compression, and the file size was like a few kilobytes smaller. So I just leave it at 5. since I'm not benefiting from the higher setting anyway. Oh, and I almost forgot. I believe it said 24-bit audio. Now, I bet you if I dive deep and analyze the audio more thoroughly, I might discover some audio tracks are not 24-bit. But right there, it says 24-bit. 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 No bit. Well, probably nothing bad happens if you pick 24-bit. But here we go. I got bit rate mode constant instead of bit depth. So, yeah, I'm going to keep it at 24-bit anyway. But apparently some of these audio tracks don't have the same bit setting as the other audio tracks. But bottom line is, I'm comfortable doing 24-bit. So since I just changed the setting again, I got to go back here. Audio, ignore. Audio tab will disappear when you click ignore. And then click auto add all. And then boom, we go back to audio. And since I already selected 24-bit before removing the audio, we know that now we added the audio, it's in 24-bit again. So now we're good to go. Now we know we're going to get all of the audio tracks in the format we want with these settings we want. And then we just add it to the queue. In this case, I was already encoding a DVD, so I'm just going to let it pause the DVD, which I've already paused. And I'm going to tell it to hit play on the file in front of us. And we can see now it's running the encoder for this one file. It will do some initial subtitle extraction. Then after it does some subtitle extraction or whatever, processing it's doing ahead of time, it's going to then proceed into, you know what? I just realized something. I want to edit this video. I probably do want to pick a higher quality setting. So anyway, I just changed the settings a little bit so that I can get a little bit higher quality on the video. Then there's these preset options here, but I find that these presets sometimes cause the quality to be like the file to be obscenely larger. Like if I pick animation, I get an obscenely larger file. So I am going to experiment with that mode at some point, because I think with old anime, when you have grainy film stock, picking the animation preset makes the file larger. In this case, it might actually optimize the file size. So I am going to experiment with that. But right now, all I did was lower the setting for the compression to get better quality. But before I stop this encode, I'll show you some things that are going on. My CPU is running at 100%. Because to do proper, x265 encoding, you need to use the CPU. The CPU is a multi-purpose computational device, and this is what's able to get us the best file compression, the smallest file, while retaining the best quality. And good to see you, Lion Ratton. Thank you very much for dropping by. So, anyway, we got the thing going on there. My network, of course, because I'm reading it over the network, although it's not really doing too much work there. NVIDIA codec is running because I'm using OBS right now. If I did not use NVIDIA encoder in OBS, my CPU would already be using a lot of power to do the video encoding. But because I'm using my GPU to do the video encoding, it compresses it less, keeps the quality good, but uses practically no CPU power, which is exactly the way I want it when I'm streaming. And also because I wouldn't be able to do this type of demonstration. The video encoding would be compromised right now if I was using OBS, if I was using the CPU to do OBS video encoding. But anyway, bottom line is that the cartoon is about 29 frames a second, and it's processing at 24 frames a second. So it'll take slightly longer than the actual movie to finish the conversion. No big deal there. But because I want to do this again, I'm going to stop the encoder, click remove. I've already picked a high quality setting. All of the chapters are selected, subtitles are on. We already did all of that stuff. And we are going to, we're going to re-add it. Now, sometimes what I like to do is hyphenate the file name And what I would do is maybe abbreviate the word hybrid. And then we're going to do X265 RF20, and then we could do FLAC. You know, every audio track FLAC plus burn. Add it to the queue. Same thing I did before. We can hit the play button or click start, and now it'll begin running the job. And if I wanted to, I could start setting up for another file or another encode. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my Galaxy Express 3.9 episodes, because I want to watch Galaxy Express 3.9 tonight. And I'm like a few episodes behind, and like last time I got stopped dead in my tracks because I had to copy or re-encode more episodes from the Blu-ray disc. So anyway, these aren't really named properly. I don't even remember the names of the episodes. I'm just going to kind of do some trial and error on here. So now we can do that. We do. So we're logging into SSH on my server, and we could do, you know, we could do a little tabbing if we want. We don't really need to. But what I need to do is go into a folder on my ZFS pool. We can list what's in there. We can see that everything I've copied is still copying there, right? Because it's not done copying yet. But as we get more files to copy, they're going to come up in that list. And then once we have them there, we can move them to the it's becoming daytime soon. I better go to bed. So anyway, yeah, I'm just going to copy this. So now the way it works is I can't copy directly to my media player folder or media server folder. So what I do instead is I copy it to a folder that I could write to over the network, and then I have to go to this command line and copy it from that folder or move it from that folder to the actual folder where my movies go. And so what I did was I did season 0 is sort of like an experimental season. This is where I put like things that were already here. And I'm just gonna, and there we go. So it says write permission denied, because I have to put sudo in my command, enter my password, and then now I can do, you know, everything that ends with .mkv can be moved into the bonus folder. And because I didn't put sudo, I got to do it again. Boom, we just did it. So now everything's been moved into the bonus folder. Then we're going to go and take this folder or directory path. We could probably highlight it like that if we want, but only issue is when it highlights the line like that, it might hit enter automatically, but that's okay. We're going to do this. We can do mv sudo mv./*mkv to that directory, just like that, and it'll move it. It'll ask me for my password. And so the reason that the folder where the movie ultimately goes, oops, I got to put a little quotation. I forgot to put quotation. So anytime you have a space in the command, you have to either put a backslash or a quotation in there. So you either put a backslash here or a quotation. So I'm going to do quotation because I think it's easier to read. And there we go. Did it? Moving a file is always quicker than copying a file because it only has to update the reference. It doesn't actually have to move it if it's on the same drive. And so now when I go into my media server, which we have right here, we can go to my anime folder. We can look in the folder view. Now, in theory, it's supposed to automatically organize things like this, but I find that unless it's regular American TV or movies, this automatic categorization doesn't really work right. So with anime, I always like to click folder, and then, you go to, you got the name of the series. Most of them, if I put them in folders correctly, they're organized neatly. Macross 7 has a second folder, so I gotta, maybe put it one folder up, but basically it's there where I want it. I got each episode. It shows a check mark for anything I watched recently. But in the case of the Galaxy Express 3.9, it gets a little murky. So we're gonna go in right now. So these I all bought on Blu-ray, legit bought on Blu-ray. And if we go here, we got like some of the names are named properly. Basically, I watched everything on Blu-ray disc 1, and then I copied everything from disc 2 and added it. So we got episode 60 and the name 61. I'm sorry, 59, 60, 61, 62. It's literally a planet full of fat people. It's very interesting, that episode. That lady actually wants to get away from home, but her husband becomes so fat he breaks the house. Yeah, like literally, this lady's husband gets so fat he breaks the house. In fact, I gotta show you now. See, that's the husband, and she's like, I want to move out. So then at some point in here, I want to see when the house blows up. I should probably not spoil this. See, you got the fat guy there in the front of the house. She's like, I used to be young and hot, but then I got fat. The dogs are fat. Yeah. Oh, this was an issue I ran into. So when I initially copied Galaxy Express 3.9, I couldn't turn on subtitles. And that's because I didn't know how to get the subtitles to copy when using MB. Now, we got that figured out, basically. And anytime I have a problem using this video encoder, because once in a while I'll run into a weird problem with this video encoder. And when I run into a weird problem with this video encoder, then I'll go and I'll use Handbrake. But I think that as cool as Handbrake is in terms of being simple to use, the other video encoder, this one hybrid, it gives you more control, gives you more options, gives you more possibilities for how you can go about, getting a desired effect. So I do certainly prefer using this application here. So anyway, yeah, this guy just had his house blow up. And I think the robot is telling him that the guy's house just blew up because he's too fat. And basically, the way this planet works is they have robots to do everything. So when you blow up your house from being fat, they'll build you a new house. See the guy? I got friends who they'll have discussions about science fiction, anime, Star Trek, Orville, and it's sort of like when you have certain types of allegorical expressions in science fiction, they'll take something that exists in the real world and they'll turn it, like, instead of turning it to a 10, they'll turn it up to a 20, like really exaggerate some situation so that they can really make the point, make the allegorical point, or express allegory and whatnot. And that's sort of what happens a lot on Galaxy Express 3.9. A lot of this happens. And I mean, this is an example of that. Like, because it seems kind of absurd in so many standpoints, having, a guy so fat that his house explodes and he's somehow still alive. But it's not the point that you're supposed to take that seriously and try to figure out, why is that real? How can that be real? This is ridiculous. No, it's like, it's the underlying allegory. It's the underlying lesson of the episode that this is about, and Lee J. Matsumoto, may he rest in peace, died like a month or two ago. Was really good at doing that, and that's why I think this really resonates with like many people. And I want to say hi to Sparks Friday Nights. I hope you're having a fine Thursday night or a fine Friday morning today. By the way, do you still have yourself on Rumble, man? Because I went to go to your Rumble channel and looked blank. I might have clicked on the wrong channel. I didn't try too hard to look, but I want to double check if you have your Rumble channel or if you took it down or something. No big deal either way, but you know, I always say that you have the distinction of being my most in my #1 Rumble viewer. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about here was I was jumping around topics, but bottom line is that now the stuff I added to the folder, now because I didn't label it yet, I put it into the specials folder, which is not normal. Normally, when you create a folder called Season 0, it gets listed as specials. And, well, boy, this is weird. It looks like it clumped up the episodes. Yeah, that's not the correct order of episodes right there. So this is something that will happen once in a while on MB that annoys me. Generally speaking, if you name every episode, if you give the file name like this. So in this case, if the file name has the name of the TV show, followed by the episode name. So you have the name of the TV show, followed by the episode number, Season 01, episode 59. The episode name is optional usually, but I like to have it in there in case it can't update from the internet. And then everything after the hyphen will usually generate a pull down menu. So like this episode here, you can see we have a pull down menu. That's because I have multiple file names that are the same, but after the hyphen, I have different writing because I use different video codecs to experiment with the quality. And so when I watch one of these episodes, all 3 of these are the same episode, just with different quality settings. Oh, that's very nice of you, Spock. Well, I appreciate that. I was going to go and view you more on Rumble, but like, I just never got around to it. I'm not in the habit. I wasn't really in the habit of using Rumble that extensively. I'm still trying to get into that habit, but it's like, it's contentious to me because I don't want to cannibalize views from a friend's channel on YouTube. Like Pacific414 just got monetized. And if I view him on Rumble, I'm taking away views from, you know, YouTube, unless I play both on the same computer at the same time, which you could do that. You could play Rumble and YouTube simultaneously, but it's a little wasteful. Harder to do that on the phone. So I'd rather, you know, focus my support for Pacific414 on YouTube since that's where he's monetized. That's where he's got most of his viewership. But I think it's important that, you know, if someone's channel gets taken down or they run into situations where things are controversial, that they are ready to use Rumble, because, you know, then if you have to jump to Rumble, what I would do is like, sometimes I think about doing content on YouTube where I basically put up a placeholder on YouTube saying, hey, to watch the uncensored version of this live stream, go to Rumble. Or I'm streaming on Rumble right now, but essentially I would have the YouTube side just telling people to go to Rumble. I don't know if YouTube would like that very much, but I don't think they would really do anything about it. But, you know, just kind of kicking around ideas. I haven't tried any of them, just, you know, ideas. So anyway, yeah, this is a little murky here because, hey, what up, Chris Nimbus? Man, we got some night owls. It's actually 5 a.m. I'm guessing that you people are either getting up for work or something, or we're up really late like me. I should go to bed soon, but I kind of woke up late. Shamefully woke up late, you know? So yeah, this one here, it really did a number with the file names. I mean, like, there's more than 3 episodes here. And we need to get the answer to this before I go and prepare to sleep. Okay, so some of these episode names are like numbered in some weird way. I'm going to try and experiment. Yeah, but yeah, earlier in the stream it's kind of interesting, guys, you know, so there might be some stuff if you skip around. But yeah, the other night, funny thing happened. I was like really out of it and I fell asleep at my desk. Then I accidentally, in the middle of my sleeping, somewhere without knowing it, I started a live stream. I clicked on this button here that said start streaming, and it started streaming to YouTube automatically. And it had like a nice thumbnail image of a video game stream, but at the time my lights were off. All I had was a red LED on in the room. And yeah, I disabled automatic streaming from OBS so that I would never accidentally start streaming when I'm like half awake. and it was awful. I looked like shit. And like I had this video playing in a loop while looking like shit. The lights were off, the chroma key was half messed up, and my face looked really dark. This part of my glasses looked like there's a red dot on my face, and I just looked fucked up. And I'm like really out of it. I'm like half awake. I'm like, ugh. And then like I go to grab this water, and there's some weird concoction mixed in this water that didn't taste right, and I get this disgusted look on my face. I go, you know, like my face turns color, and then I look up at my screen and I see that not only is this video playing in loop, but that it's actively live streaming. I see the YouTube chat on my screen. I see some messages from friendly faces of the content creators, and one of them is like, "Hey man, are you all right, man?" And I'm like, "Oh God!" And I'm like mortified that like I'm streaming myself right now. I don't even know. Like I'm half dressed, I'm half awake. I'm like, "How the hell is this happening?" And yeah, that happened. But luckily, all is well that ends well. But other than that, we went over some video encoding stuff. We went over random stuff. We talked about space. And by we, I mean me. But, you know, we had people jump in. We had Punk Waddle in the chat. We had other people in the chat. We had, like, the guy with the bear. He's cool. Eric Boyd. And the other guy who's cool, Slim Nim, which I put a link in the channel up in the chat somewhere. Yeah, cool people came up in here today. It's good because both of those people saw me doing that uncompromising stream. So I was really glad that I was able to, like, you know, make sure we were still cool. But yeah, I gotta really like properly rename the files for my Galaxy Express 3.9, because it seems that if I don't name the files properly, this is not going to. Oh, good. Okay, temporarily it's fixed. So at least now I have all of the episodes that I want to watch listed here. They're not perfectly named. They're not organized exactly as I'd like to have them organized, but they're here. So I should be able to go through them and find the episode that I last saw and then watch whatever episode came after that. Beyond that, so that command, all that command does is moves it backwards one directory. So it literally says, take the folder name bonus and move it to the directory behind this one. So now when I go backwards one directory, we have the bonus folder where it wasn't before. But anyway, now go back to MB. We're going to tell MB to rescan, which it does automatically, but I like to rescan to be sure. That's how it updates this page. And MB is so cool because, like, you know, like, obviously the ideal is to have, like, you know, your seasons neatly organized. So Legend of the Galactic Heroes, we have episode 1, episode 2, etc. And when you play an episode, you can turn the subtitles on and off at the beginning, or you go straight into playing it. And that only has one audio track. But if we go to Super Dimension Fortress Macross, which is somewhere here, or we go to something even simpler, like, you know, Spirited Away. Let's pick Spirited Away, because I was watching this guy, he seemed like a nice enough guy, but he was bitching about Spirited Away because Studio Ghibli is satanic, because they got demons in this movie. And it's like, dude, it's fucking Japanese tradition. Like, you know, it's like, just, they didn't have Christianity back in the day, okay? Their culture developed about with this type of stuff in it. And it's not like the guy making it is trying to subliminally influence us to be satanic, you know? But, you know, if you got kids and you want to tell the kids, hey, by the way, this is counted to our religion, but you can still watch it, that might be fine. But I think it's a little crazy to bitch and moan about it. But maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, bottom line is, yeah, we got English subtitles. We got some other subtitle. I'm not even sure what this subtitle track does. And you could either turn the subtitles on and off at the beginning. You can pick your audio track. So essentially, if you copy a movie from a Blu-ray disc, it has like 2 audio tracks. Then while you're watching the movie, you can alternate between English and Jap very easily. Japanese, I shouldn't say Jap. And as for these subtitles, I'm not really sure why there's an extra subtitle track, but let's see if we can see what happens there. So my guess is that subtitle track is there when they have English, Japanese lettering on screen. Like when they show you a newspaper, it's going to translate the newspaper. But in this case, now you see it's got the subtitle when I switch to the main subtitle track. So, you know, that's how that works. STF Macross. Now, I used to make fun of the English audio, but it turns out that the main character is voiced by Vic Mignon, you know, the guy from Dragon Ball Z, and the Lin Minmay, who's the girl in this show, she is voiced by the same lady, both in Japanese and English. So of course she speaks perfect Japanese, but Marty Ajima also does speak English. I mean, she has a YouTube channel now. You could like subscribe to it. You can become a member. It's really expensive. It's like $50 to become a member of her channel. So I don't do it, but like, you know, she's like, you know, a relatively big name in the anime community, and she lives in California. She's a Cubs fan, has a cute dog, has a kid, I think, too, has a son or daughter, I think son. And, you know, like, I don't know if she's married or not, but like, you know, she got like a place in, you know, she lives comfortably, and she still works. She goes to Japan, does concerts and stuff like that. But, yeah, I used to make fun of the English audio whenever Minmay spoke in the English audio track. Then I found out that it was voiced by Marty Ajima, and in that case I said, you know what, she's doing a pretty good job, because that's not a native English, that's not a native language, and as far as I'm aware, she did not live in America back in, you know, the 80s. See, that's Vic Mignogna. See, like, that's like I used to make fun of that. It didn't sound bad. You're like, take care, okay? And other parts, like, I don't know, just sound like someone like speaking funny. But then I realized, well, hold on, it's not that bad. It's not bad at all. So yeah, she sings a lot of the music on this show, and she speaks a lot of dialogue. And of course, if she's singing in Japanese, then she's singing, you know, really well anyway. But yeah, so I gotta say, like, God bless her for doing both the English and Japanese audio for, you know, her role. That's really cool. And just the music, this 80s music, it's like, it brings me to a happy place. I gotta say this, not 80s music, but like this particular series, like, it's good. I enjoy it a lot. Like, you know, animation quality might be a little like low, but like it's not terrible by any measure. And only thing is that if you ever want to get started on Macross without watching the 50 episodes of the first series, your best bet would be to watch the movie called Do You Remember Love? And then once you watch Do You Remember Love, you can go straight to Macross 7, which sadly, Do You Remember Love has been taken off of YouTube, and I never got around to downloading it. I should have downloaded it off of YouTube while I could, but apparently I don't have it. I don't have Do You Remember Love in my collection right now, so I'm perfectly willing to buy it, but, you know, like, I want to be, you know, picky. There's also like a PlayStation and Sega Saturn game that's like super expensive. A lot of these Blu-rays on Amazon are like Japanese, Chinese reproductions. They're not bad, actually. They're pretty good, like, especially like if the person adds subtitles to something that didn't previously have subtitles. But what you'll notice is that you'll see the cover art in a Blu-ray box, and then you'll see like you don't see the back. So in all likelihood, there's no barcode on the back of this box. But if the quality is good and the guy gets good reviews, and apparently this person does, I'd be willing to buy it if this was like the best copy I could buy. It's $100 to buy the video game version of this. There's a $32 version of a older game. If I could run a Sega Saturn emulator and download this, great. If not, if I could run a Sega Saturn emulator and buy the disc, I might. It's kind of cool. You know, you got a different box art here, different box art here. You know, it's a little sketchy, you know. This might be an official Japanese Blu-ray. So now you're talking about pretty steep pricing if this is an official Japanese Blu-ray. And I'm making assumptions here. I'm not even sure if it is. But like for like a 90-minute movie or whatever it is, it's a little steep. But if it's like damn good quality for something I love, yeah, I'd buy it, you know. But I would much like to have the bootleg copy on hand so that I don't have to worry about it as much, you know. It's like, it's just, why waste money? Oh, did they come out with Kukuza's Island already? Now, Gundam's a pain in the ass because they charge obscenely high prices for these things here. I don't even know why they did an episode about the island. Now, this one here might be... This would be good, but it's like I want to get it on Blu-ray instead of DVD. Now, that said, if I get a good quality copy on DVD and I can rip it and re-encode it to have, you know, retain really good quality, it might not be the end of the world. But right now, my bootleg is pretty good, so I'm not ready to, like, jump and buy this just yet in lieu of the Blu-ray. Like, if the Chinese... I think the Chinese guy bought the Japanese Blu-ray, copied it, and then added English subtitles. Oh, wait, wrong button. Added English subtitles to it. I'm sorry, I had the wrong camera angle. But yeah, so this is the Macross 7 Blu-ray, DVD, actually. It's an official-looking set. So yeah, it's official. But... you know, I'd be worried about the quality on that, you know, compared to the Blu-ray. Especially if the Blu-ray, it might be a Chinese reproduction, but if they're using the original, you know, like Japanese Blu-ray video footage and audio track, and then them turning that into, you know, adding English subtitles, I'm fine with that. You know, I'm more than fine to pay that guy for bootlegging something that's literally not available. Now, they say it's a hybrid pack. A hybrid between what? I'm not sure, but yeah, we got Do You Remember Love, regular edition, JP Bandai, whatever that means. So this might not have any English subtitles in it at all, but usually with a popular enough movie, you can usually download the subtitles from Open Subtitles. In fact, the feature of MB, the media server application I'm using, is that it can download subtitles. It can literally download subtitles. So when I go to play like anime and let's say I didn't have subtitles for Bleach, I could literally go here and say download subtitles, edit subtitles, English, search. In this case, it didn't find anything. Why didn't it find subtitles? Or either the file name is not sufficiently labeled. In fact, with this one here, yeah, I should rename the file to match the correct naming conventions for MB if I really care. In this case, subtitles are burned in, so you don't need to add extra subtitles. Let's see if we can find one more example here. These are also labeled a little wrong. I might not have anything that's labeled correctly right now, so this might work. So this has subtitles already, but let's just say we want to add more subtitles. We want to get different fonts. So you see I did search, and now it's got Macross 7 movie. Now these are not correct, but once in a while when you search for subtitles, it will literally say hash match. So somehow there's some identifier that matches between the video and the subtitles, and basically it'll tell you that you can definitely use those subtitles. So there's that. If we take a look at Victory Gundam, it has really unique subtitles, and I'm not going to find it right now, but like in Victory Gundam, which I put Gundam in its own category because of the way the folders get organized by MB, it's just easier to find things this way. It had like subtitles that were really crazy, like where there would be a ship taking off, and there would be a label on the side of the ship. There would be like it would literally, like, instead of just being a static subtitle, it would move along with the ship. So it had some extra parameters to it that, you know, that like normal subtitles don't have. But anyway, I think I'm kind of rambling now, and I should get to bed and turn off my lights so my eyes can adjust and fall asleep. So I am going to prepare to go to bed, and I want to thank everyone for dropping in. And yeah, I do have to like buy this on eBay or something, but I want to make sure, like buying Macross 7 on Blu-ray, I didn't want to overpay for a bootleg copy, and I wanted to understand what I was buying before buying it. So, you know, the only thing I ordered so far was the original series, the one that I just played a scene from. This might turn out to be a waste of money, but for $22, I'm willing to take the gamble. August 7th to August 21st. Today's August 4th. It's coming into a speed pack, which is basically like one of those Chinese mail packing things. And I ordered it like a week ago, basically, so a few days ago. Yeah, it's not really a lot of information. I just know that it's more or less being tracked, and when it gets to the state side, I should be able to get a little more detail. But what did I buy? Well, let's take a look. And yeah, that's my new phone, and it works. I paid $4.99 for it. So I paid like $4.40. Anyway, it was worth it. So anyway, this is like pretty much a home printed box because this isn't available in the US basically. It might be the Japanese version and then with English subtitles added. I'm hoping that it's genuinely Blu-ray quality and that the only real modification is the addition of subtitles. And if that's the case, this person is doing God's work. You know, like this is a fine, the job well done. Once again, we don't see the back of the box, so I don't know if there's a barcode there. It might be a barcode, but it's not really that official. You know, we got Macross Frontier here. I think there's another series that's not available. I hear they are going to make them all available soon. But as far as I'm aware, these are not available in the US yet. But that there is a project currently going on where the intent is to add English dub to it as well. So not only are they going to, you know, make it available and license it for availability in the US, but they are also going to make it so that you can, you know, watch it in English or in Japanese with English subtitles. But lastly, so before when I was segueing into video encoding, the whole point of that exercise was to point out that when I took a Blu-ray rip of Voices of a Distant Star and I put it into DaVinci, I was missing an audio track and the audio tracks weren't quite working right. And although I did not explore, you know, anything about this audio track, so if we like go and try to like, you know, get properties or something, I don't really know where to begin. Maybe if I double click on it, or in this case, I should resize the window because we're missing the bottom of the window right now. So we can go to the audio thing and we can see the audio tracks. And in this case, you got left and right channel for each audio track. And if I double click on it and I go to audio, it's basically saying it's got an embedded channel 1 and 2 left and right. So that's probably stereo. Double click on this one, go to audio, boom. That's got to be a surround sound, right? Look, it's got multiple channels embedded in here. And it's saying left, center, right, left surround, right surround, and bass. And what's interesting is that I don't see a track 1 or channel 1. So one of the reasons why I might have only been able to hear audio on one ear is because somehow in the act of bringing it into DaVinci, the channel numbers got messed up basically and got thrown in the wrong order, and maybe picking a different setting here might help. That might help on its own because I just see like right here when I pick 5.1 film versus 5.1, some of these items move around. Or I can figure out what each audio track is and manually assign them, which could be a little tedious, but that's why I decided to like basically, you know, before making any editing in here, I would actually just press delete and undo, which apparently I did a lot. I probably should just hit revert. Oh, bummer. I hit the wrong button. Okay, one more time here. So yeah, the reason I went to that exercise before with the video encoders is because when I imported Voices of a Distant Star from the Blu-ray rip into DaVinci, I was missing 1 out of 5 audio tracks. And if we go into the audio portion here and double click on any one audio track, which we got to do by unlinking them, you got 2 channels, left and right channel. Double click on it, go to audio, and you can see here we got 2 channels listed here. That's normal stereo sound. But when I double click on this one, we got surround sound. 5 channels, but we're missing channel 1 and 2. I don't know why channel 1 and 2 are not listed, but it's got channels 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, including the bass. But if I switch from 5.1 film to 5.1, now we got left, right, center, bass, left surround, right surround. Is that more correct? I'm not really sure. One could probably manually go through each of these, you know, items here and try to determine what each audio track or each audio channel is, but that can get downright tedious. So that's why instead of like, you know, keeping this, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to go here to the video encoder. Like this simple one here was an option, right? I can add the audio tracks I want and convert them to a different format that I know is compatible, or, you know, something else. instead of using handbrake, which is okay, but I don't, I like hybrid more, I used hybrid. And in hybrid, well, you can see we're 50% true. It's encoding at 20 frames a second, so basically it's going to take about 3 more minutes to finish it. And apparently the file size is only 280 megabytes, which I find to be surprisingly small for this type of content. My guess is it's because unlike Galaxy Express 3.9, which has grainy film animation, this doesn't have any grain in it, and so it's able to get better file compression. At least that's my guess. But the important thing is the audio. So we got every audio track here, and my hope and assumption is that simply by converting them from their native audio track, from their native audio format to FLAC, if one FLAC or two FLAC audio tracks work correctly in DaVinci, then all of them should work. If they don't all work correctly, then I might decide to pick AAC. And if that doesn't work, I might even decide to do some like down sampling. I might decide I want to down mix the surround sound in stereo. Probably not. At that point, since I'm only trying to edit this for a YouTube video, my best bet would be to eliminate all of the unnecessary audio tracks. So we would literally go through this list and read the audio track and see, like, we got PCM, we want to keep PCM, so that's fine. But we don't want surround sound, so we're going to delete surround sound. Surround sound. Stereo, we want to keep. Surround sound, we want to delete surround sound. So right there, this would be purely in stereo now. And so now I can just give it a different file name. I can say, instead of calling it this, so now I know that that will be in stereo only, whereas this file that's currently encoding is containing every audio track. And if we want to do that in a simpler to use application, we could do the same thing. In fact, it's already been done over here. I have it in the queue. I can encode it anytime I want. It has only 2 audio tracks. But if I wanted to, I can, delete all of the audio tracks. Add all remaining audio tracks. And then work with it like that. And I could use a different codec, or I can keep it in FLAC. But one issue is that that's 5.1. It wants to mix it down. So in this case, I'm going to say keep 5.1. Keep 5.1. If my intent was to play on a real surround sound system or surround sound headphones, if they actually work, we want to make sure it's not mixing down to stereo, which it's doing here. Whereas hybrid was not mixing it down to stereo, so I did not have to touch that. But basically, there we go. So we got everything designated correctly. And you know what that also means? It also means that I have to go back here one more time, edit the existing job, because the audio here... Okay, that's correct, actually, because we only wanted stereo here, so we're fine. So we put it back in the queue, bring it to the top, and when I hit start, it'll begin encoding it for me. But for now, we're going to let hybrid finish its job. Then I'm going to turn off my computer as soon as... it's done encoding. So basically, I'm probably going to be laying down in my bed. I'm going to press the button to shut off my computer. And then I'm going to go to bed. So anyway, with that being said, I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. I want to thank Spock's Friday Nights. I want to thank Chris Nimbus. I want to thank Lion Ratton. I want to thank Eric Boyd. I want to thank Punk Waddle. I want to thank the other guy who came in, whose name I can't find right now. Yeah, here we are. This gentleman here. I appreciate that, everyone dropped by, and Whooper Trooper, man of Whoopstotska. I thought he was already president of the... Oh, I see. He's got to start Whoopstotska party in the U.S. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, anyway, that's where we're at. So, anyway, with that being said, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And as it turns out, my video encoding is done, so I can turn my computer off. So with that being said... thanks for watching, and have a good night, good morning, good evening, whatever time of the day it is for you. Greetings and good night. Well, you can't say greetings now. Anyway, I'm gonna get to bed. Thanks again for watching. I'm still here. I'm still here until I click this button. And, gotta click one more button.